implicit connotations. Well, I'm Elise from the Crowdfunded Translation Project, and wanted to just tell you a little bit about what that project is and give you some updates about what I've been doing with your support. The Inessa Armand project. After finishing Kalantai's social basis of the female question, I put out a call for suggestions for the next project. One of those suggestions that I received was to translate the essays and letters of Inessa Armand, Kalantai's predecessor at the Bolshevik Women's section. Suppressed by Stalin and never translated into English, Armand's writings enrich our understanding of the Bolshevik women's movement in the run-up to the October Revolution and the early days of revolutionary Russia. With your support, I have been able to translate all of her extant essays and am currently raising the last $1,950 to cover the cost of translating the remainder of her extant works, which at this point is just her correspondence. If you would like to support the project, all contributions are beautiful. You'll find links in the description. The Punto Final project is a project that is really just at its inception. Punto Final, for those unfamiliar with it, i.e. likely most of the people watching this right now, was a magazine edited by Manuel Caviese Donoso that ran from 1965 to the eve of the 1973 CIA-backed coup in Chile, and then from 1989 to 2018, publishing a grand total of 894 issues. In addition to being a platform for theoretical and ideological debate, they were also a source of excellent political journalism. Their real-time analysis of political developments in Chile, the rise of the Unidad Popular, the looming coup, and the limits of electoralism has aged extremely well, and is well worth reading for anyone interested in the period. The Indian left is sort of in a media bubble, and the Anglosphere left really doesn't do a great job of breaking that bubble and really building connections there. So the discussion that you hear in English about Chile, even in supposed left outlets, such as Jargon, often has little or nothing to do with the state of discussion amongst comrades in Chile. So this is part of my attempts to contribute to sort of breaking down that bubble and fostering some understanding of the thought amongst revolutionaries in Chile, both historically and currently. I have so far translated 7 articles, including a long read on electoralism versus armed struggle called Chile, the Ballot or the Bullet by Punto Final editor Manuel Caviese, and currently am working on various pieces of political analysis from the eve of the electoral campaign that would bring Salvador Allende to power, or at least to government. These include discussions of electoral versus revolutionary strategy and how and to what extent these things can coexist, discussions of US imperialist interference in Chilean politics, One of the challenges of this project, since its inception, has been getting the word out. The billionaire-controlled black box algorithms that dominate our lives don't like small creators or small projects. Nor are they particularly keen on ideological viewpoints that are inconsistent with the whims of billionaires. What's more, they positively detest anyone who isn't paying for reach. And then they turn around and make it ever harder to do even that in a useful way. The result of all this is that there are definitely considerably more people who would be interested in this project than actually see any of my posts about it. And that's why I have a small favor to ask you. Tell your friends about the crowdfunded translation project. Share the completed translations, link the Patreon and the Facebook pages. All those links are in the description. Let people know that this project exists and what it's all about. Let them know that I want to hear their ideas for future crowdfunded translation projects at crowdfunded_translations@elisehendrick.com. And if you've got any ideas, I'd love to hear them. Ultimately, the crowdfunded translation project is for us all. The whole idea is to translate texts that have fallen through the cracks by making it economically viable for a professional translator, i.e. me, to work on them and to make the results freely available to everyone. I think that a lot of great things are coming out of the project, and even more can result from it yet. But it all depends on making the project visible to the people who might benefit from it and consider supporting it. Thank you for watching for this length of time. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope that it will encourage you to get in touch with the crowdfunded translation project, look at our translations, to get in touch with, to get involved with the crowdfunded translation project. Make suggestions, read the translations, let people know that this exists. This could be a great resource, but it's been a real fucker trying to get the word out about it. So thank you very much. Even watching this and commenting and leaving a like and sharing it on your platforms, or even to yourself in an email apparently, will help increase the visibility of this video and thus of this project. Thanks so much, and see you on the next stream. Thank you very much. Even watching this and commenting and leaving a like and sharing it on your platforms, or even to yourself in an email apparently, will help increase the visibility of this video and thus of this project. Thanks so much, and see you on the next stream. Hey, implicit connotations. I'm Elise from the Crowdfunded Translation Project, and wanted to just tell you a little bit about what that project is and give you some updates about what I've been doing with your support. The Inessa Armand project. After finishing Kalantai's social basis of the female question, I put out a call for suggestions for the next project. One of those suggestions that I received was to translate the essays and letters of Inessa Armand, Kalantai's predecessor at the Bolshevik women's section. Suppressed by Stalin and never translated into English, Armand's writings enrich our understanding of the Bolshevik women's movement in the run-up to the October Revolution and the early days of revolutionary Russia. With your support, I have been able to translate all of her extant essays and am currently raising the last $1,950 to cover the cost of translating the remainder of her extant works, which at this point is just her correspondence. If you would like to support the project, all contributions are beautiful. You'll find links in the description. The Punto Final project is a project that is really just at its inception. Punto Final, for those unfamiliar with it, i.e. likely most of the people watching this right now, was a magazine edited by Manuel Caviese Donoso that ran from 1965 to the eve of the 1973 CIA-backed coup in Chile, and then from 1989 to 2018, publishing a grand total of 894 issues. In addition to being a platform for theoretical and ideological debate, they were also a source of excellent political journalism. Their real-time analysis of political developments in Chile, the rise of the Unidad Popular, the looming coup, and the limits of electoralism has aged extremely well, and is well worth reading for anyone interested in the period. The Chilean left is sort of in a media bubble, and the Anglosphere left really doesn't do a great job of breaking that bubble and really building connections there. So the discussion that you hear in English about Chile, even in supposed left outlets, such as Jacobin, often has little or nothing to do with the state of discussion amongst comrades in Chile. So this is part of my attempts to contribute to sort of breaking down that bubble and fostering some understanding of the thought amongst revolutionaries in Chile, both historically and currently. I have so far translated 7 articles, including a long read on electoralism versus armed struggle called Chile, the Ballot or the Bullet by Punto Final editor Manuel Cabiese, and currently am working on various pieces of political analysis from the eve of the electoral campaign that would bring Salvador Allende to power, or at least to government. These include discussions of electoral versus revolutionary strategy and how and to what extent these things can coexist, discussions of US imperialist interference in Chilean politics, One of the challenges of this project, since its inception, has been getting the word out. The billionaire-controlled black box algorithms that dominate our lives don't like small creators or small projects. Nor are they particularly keen on ideological viewpoints that are inconsistent with the whims of billionaires. What's more, they positively detest anyone who isn't paying for reach. And then they turn around and make it ever harder to do even that in a useful way. The result of all this is that there are definitely considerably more people who would be interested in this project than actually see any of my posts about it. And that's why I have a small favor to ask you. Tell your friends about the crowdfunded translation project. Share the completed translations, link the Patreon and the Facebook pages. All those links are in the description. Let people know that this project exists and what it's all about. Let them know that I want to hear their ideas for future crowdfunded translation projects at crowdfunded_translations@elisehendrick.com. And if you've got any ideas, I'd love to hear them. Ultimately, the crowdfunded translation project is for us all. The whole idea is to translate texts that have fallen through the cracks by making it economically viable for a professional translator, i.e. me, to work on them and to make the results freely available to everyone. I think that a lot of great things are coming out of the project, and even more can result from it yet. But it all depends on making the project visible to the people who might benefit from it and consider supporting it. Thank you for watching for this length of time. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope that it will encourage you to get in touch with the crowdfunded translation project, look at our translations, to get in touch with, to get involved with the crowdfunded translation project. Make suggestions, read the translations, let people know that this exists. This could be a great resource, but it's been a real fucker trying to get the word out about it. So thank you very much. Even watching this and commenting and leaving a like and sharing it on your platforms, or even to yourself in an email apparently, will help increase the visibility of this video and thus of this project. Thanks so much, and see you on the next stream. Thank you very much. Even watching this and commenting and leaving a like and sharing it on your platforms, or even to yourself in an email apparently, will help increase the visibility of this video and thus of this project. Thanks so much, and see you on the next stream. Hey, implicit connotations. Well, I'm Elise from the Crowdfunded Translation Project, and wanted to just tell you a little bit about what that project is and give you some updates about what I've been doing with your support. The Inessa Armand project. After finishing Kalantai's social basis of the female question, I put out a call for suggestions for the next project. One of those suggestions that I received was to translate the essays and letters of Inessa Armand, Kalantai's predecessor at the Bolshevik women's section. Suppressed by Stalin and never translated into English, Armand's writings enrich our understanding of the Bolshevik women's movement in the run-up to the October Revolution and the early days of revolutionary Russia. With your support, I have been able to translate all of her extant essays and am currently raising the last $1,950 to cover the cost of translating the remainder of her extant works, which at this point is just her correspondence. If you would like to support the project, all contributions are beautiful. You'll find links in the description. The Punto Final project is a project that is really just at its inception. Punto Final, for those unfamiliar with it, i.e. likely most of the people watching this right now, was a magazine edited by Manuel Caviese Donoso that ran from 1965 to the eve of the 1973 CIA-backed coup in Chile, and then from 1989 to 2018, publishing a grand total of 894 issues. In addition to being a platform for theoretical and ideological debate, they were also a source of excellent political journalism. Their real-time analysis of political developments in Chile, the rise of the Unidad Popular, the looming coup, and the limits of electoralism has aged extremely well, and is well worth reading for anyone interested in the period. The Indian left is sort of in a media bubble, and the Anglosphere left really doesn't do a great job of breaking that bubble and really building connections there. So the discussion that you hear in English about Chile, even in supposed left outlets, such as Jargon, often has little or nothing to do with the state of discussion amongst comrades in Chile. So this is part of my attempts to contribute to sort of breaking down that bubble and fostering some understanding of the thought amongst revolutionaries in Chile, both historically and currently. I have so far translated 7 articles, including a long read on electoralism versus armed struggle called Chile, the Ballot or the Bullet by Punto Final editor Manuel Caviese, and currently am working on various pieces of political analysis from the eve of the electoral campaign that would bring Salvador Allende to power, or at least to government. These include discussions of electoral versus revolutionary strategy and how and to what extent these things can coexist, discussions of US imperialist interference in Chilean politics, One of the challenges of this project, since its inception, has been getting the word out. The billionaire-controlled black box algorithms that dominate our lives don't like small creators or small projects. nor are they particularly keen on ideological viewpoints that are inconsistent with the whims of billionaires. What's more, they positively detest anyone who isn't paying for reach, and then they turn around and make it ever harder to do even that in a useful way. The result of all this is that there are definitely considerably more people who would be interested in this project than actually see any of my posts about it. And that's why I have a small favor to ask you. Tell your friends about the crowdfunded translation project. Share the completed translations, link the Patreon and the Facebook pages. All those links are in the description. Let people know that this project exists and what it's all about. Let them know that I want to hear their ideas for future crowdfunded translation projects at crowdfunded_translations@elisehendrick.com. And if you've got any ideas, I'd love to hear them. Ultimately, the crowdfunded translation project is for us all. The whole idea is to translate texts that have fallen through the cracks by making it economically viable for a professional translator, i.e. me, to work on them and to make the results freely available to everyone. I think that a lot of great things are coming out of the project, and even more can result from it yet. But it all depends on making the project visible to the people who might benefit from it and consider supporting it. Thank you for watching for this length of time. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope that it will encourage you to get in touch with the crowdfunded translation project, look at our translations, to get in touch with, to get involved with the crowdfunded translation project. Make suggestions, read the translations, let people know that this exists. This could be a great resource, but it's been a real fucker trying to get the word out about it. So thank you very much. Even watching this and commenting and leaving a like and sharing it on your platforms, or even to yourself in an email apparently, will help increase the visibility of this video and thus of this project. Thanks so much, and see you on the next stream. Thank you very much. Even watching this and commenting and leaving a like and sharing it on your platforms, or even to yourself in an email apparently, will help increase the visibility of this video and thus of this project. Thanks so much, and see you on the next stream. Hey, implicit connotations. I'm Elise from the Crowdfunded Translation Project, and wanted to just tell you a little bit about what that project is and give you some updates about what I've been doing with your support. The Inessa Armand project. After finishing Kalantai's social basis of the female question, I put out a call for suggestions for the next project. One of those suggestions that I received was to translate the essays and letters of Inessa Armand, Kalantai's predecessor at the Bolshevik Women's section. Suppressed by Stalin and never translated into English, Armand's writings enrich our understanding of the Bolshevik women's movement in the run-up to the October Revolution and the early days of revolutionary Russia. With your support, I have been able to translate all of her extant essays and am currently raising the last $1,950 to cover the cost of translating the remainder of her extant works, which at this point is just her correspondence. If you would like to support the project, all contributions are beautiful. You'll find links in the description. The Punto Final project is a project that is really just at its inception. Punto Final, for those unfamiliar with it, i.e. likely most of the people watching this right now, was a magazine edited by Manuel Caviese Donoso that ran from 1965 to the eve of the 1973 CIA-backed coup in Chile, and then from 1989 to 2018, publishing a grand total of 894 issues. In addition to being a platform for theoretical and ideological debate, they were also a source of excellent political journalism. Their real-time analysis of political developments in Chile, the rise of the Unidad Popular, the looming coup, and the limits of electoralism has aged extremely well, and is well worth reading for anyone interested in the period. The Chilean left is sort of in a media bubble, and the Anglosphere left really doesn't do a great job of breaking that bubble and really building connections there. So the discussion that you hear in English about Chile, even in supposed left outlets, such as Jargon, often has little or nothing to do with the state of discussion amongst comrades in Chile. So this is part of my attempts to contribute to sort of breaking down that bubble and fostering some understanding of the thought amongst revolutionaries in Chile, both historically and currently. I have so far translated 7 articles, including a long read on electoralism versus armed struggle called Chile, the Ballot or the Bullet by Punto Final editor Manuel Caviese, and currently am working on various pieces of political analysis from the eve of the electoral campaign that would bring Salvador Allende to power, or at least to government. These include discussions of electoral versus revolutionary strategy and how and to what extent these things can coexist, discussions of US imperialist interference in Chilean politics, One of the challenges of this project, since its inception, has been getting the word out. The billionaire-controlled black box algorithms that dominate our lives don't like small creators or small projects. Nor are they particularly keen on ideological viewpoints that are inconsistent with the whims of billionaires. What's more, they positively detest anyone who isn't paying for reach. And then they turn around and make it ever harder to do even that in a useful way. The result of all this is that there are definitely considerably more people who would be interested in this project than actually see any of my posts about it. And that's why I have a small favor to ask you. Tell your friends about the crowdfunded translation project. Share the completed translations, link the Patreon and the Facebook pages. All those links are in the description. Let people know that this project exists and what it's all about. Let them know that I want to hear their ideas for future crowdfunded translation projects at crowdfunded_translations@elisehendrick.com. And if you've got any ideas, I'd love to hear them. Ultimately, the crowdfunded translation project is for us all. The whole idea is to translate texts that have fallen through the cracks by making it economically viable for a professional translator, i.e. me, to work on them and to make the results freely available to everyone. I think that a lot of great things are coming out of the project, and even more can result from it yet. But it all depends on making the project visible to the people who might benefit from it and consider supporting it. Thank you for watching for this length of time. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope that it will encourage you to get in touch with the crowdfunded translation project, look at our translations, to get in touch with, to get involved with the crowdfunded translation project. Make suggestions, read the translations, let people know that this exists. This could be a great resource, but it's been a real fucker trying to get the word out about it. So thank you very much. Even watching this and commenting and leaving a like or and sharing it on your platforms, or even to yourself in an email apparently, will help increase the visibility of this video and thus of this project. Thanks so much, and see you on the next stream. Thank you very much. Even watching this and commenting and leaving a like and sharing it on your platforms, or even to yourself in an email apparently, will help increase the visibility of this video and thus of this project. Thanks so much, and see you on the next stream. Hey, implicit connotations. Well, I'm Elise from the Crowdfunded Translation Project, and wanted to just tell you a little bit about what that project is and give you some updates about what I've been doing with your support. The Inessa Armand project. After finishing Kalantai's social basis of the female question, I put out a call for suggestions for the next project. One of those suggestions that I received was to translate the essays and letters of Inessa Armand, Kalantai's predecessor at the Bolshevik women's section. Suppressed by Stalin and never translated into English, Armand's writings enrich our understanding of the Bolshevik women's movement in the run-up to the October Revolution and the early days of revolutionary Russia. With your support, I have been able to translate all of her extant essays and am currently raising the last $1,950 to cover the cost of translating the remainder of her extant works, which at this point is just her correspondence. If you would like to support the project, all contributions are beautiful. You'll find links in the description. The Punto Final project is a project that is really just at its inception. Punto Final, for those unfamiliar with it, i.e. likely most of the people watching this right now, was a magazine edited by Manuel Caviese Donoso that ran from 1965 to the eve of the 1973 CIA-backed coup in Chile, and then from 1989 to 2018, publishing a grand total of 894 issues. In addition to being a platform for theoretical and ideological debate, they were also a source of excellent political journalism. Their real-time analysis of political developments in Chile, the rise of the Unidad Popular, the looming coup, and the limits of electoralism has aged extremely well, and is well worth reading for anyone interested in the period. The Indian left is sort of in a media bubble, and the Anglosphere left really doesn't do a great job of breaking that bubble and really building connections there. So the discussion that you hear in English about Chile, even in supposed left outlets, such as Jacobin, often has little or nothing to do with the state of discussion amongst comrades in Chile. So this is part of my attempts to contribute to sort of breaking down that bubble and fostering some understanding of the thought amongst revolutionaries in Chile, both historically and currently. I have so far translated 7 articles, including a long read on electoralism versus armed struggle called Chile, the Ballot or the Bullet by Punto Final editor Manuel Caviese, and currently am working on various pieces of political analysis from the eve of the electoral campaign that would bring Salvador Allende to power, or at least to government. These include discussions of electoral versus revolutionary strategy and how and to what extent these things can coexist, discussions of US imperialist interference in Chilean politics, one of the challenges of this project, since its inception, has been getting the word out. The billionaire-controlled black box algorithms that dominate our lives don't like small creators or small projects. Nor are they particularly keen on ideological viewpoints that are inconsistent with the whims of billionaires. What's more, they positively detest anyone who isn't paying for reach. And then they turn around and make it ever harder to do even that in a useful way. The result of all this is that there are definitely considerably more people who would be interested in this project than actually see any of my posts about it. And that's why I have a small favor to ask you. Tell your friends about the crowdfunded translation project. Share the completed translations, link the Patreon and the Facebook pages. All those links are in the description. Let people know that this project exists and what it's all about. Let them know that I want to hear their ideas for future crowdfunded translation projects at crowdfunded_translations@elisehendrick.com. And if you've got any ideas, I'd love to hear them. Ultimately, the crowdfunded translation project is for us all. The whole idea is to translate texts that have fallen through the cracks by making it economically viable for a professional translator, i.e. me, to work on them and to make the results freely available to everyone. I think that a lot of great things are coming out of the project, and even more can result from it yet. But it all depends on making the project visible to the people who might benefit from it and consider supporting it. Thank you for watching for this length of time. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope that it will encourage you to get in touch with the crowdfunded translation.
Hello, implicit connotations. How's everybody doing? Welcome to Hyperpolyglotting with Elise, the stream where we kind of just want to learn all the languages, really. I'm Elise, translator, writer, and editor with 20 working languages. And let's see what we've got to look at. How's everybody doing, chat? So I just adjust my lighting here and get the chat widget so I can actually see it with full screen on. Okay, so yesterday we were looking a little bit at a video about a so-called red pill method to learn Japanese, and it seems Evil Dia has reacted to it. Hey Badger, how you doing? Hey XA. I thought we might have a look at his reaction to get started. Let me know if I need to make any adjustments to the audio, of course.
What's up, grinders? Welcome back to
Oh, I probably do. That's very quiet. And if it's very quiet for me, it must be quite hard for you to hear. So here we go.
This video right here got recommended to me, the red pill way to learn Japanese. Now, I'm always a little bit cautious when someone tells me I've got to start popping some pills to learn a language. Usually,
that's an interesting thing to be cautious about. Not all of the dodgy connotations around the red pill, but just like pills generally. I mean,
they're kind of politically vibed, these pills.
Oh, okay, I see. For a second, I was like, "What's he saying here?" It is
type videos, but you never know. So Elmo's over there pumping the weights. Let's do this.
If you learn Japanese, just stop for a second. Watch this video first, because what I'm about to show you will completely change how you see Japanese language.
I also, since he's talking about, like, he was talking about tameguchi and the importance of knowing it, which I agree, absolutely very important to know it, and but it's also very important to understand when not to use it. And I had mentioned a video that was done by that podcast, Yuru Gengo Radio, called Tamego de Iyo is Violence, actually, which is essentially about why you also need to be careful about it, and why it's probably actually best not to start out with it when you're speaking, especially when you haven't yet gotten to the point of really understanding what the difference is and what the connotations, and there's that word again, all of that are. So, okay.
And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Right now, so many people, including you, are learning Japanese. And 99%.
I have to say, this promised way more than it actually was, than it actually delivered. I mean, none of what he actually said is as earth-shattering as he made it out to be, I think.
Percent of them are taking the exact same approach. Like textbooks, language schools, AI, apps, textbook-oriented teachers, they are all teaching you formal Japanese first. But someone who has lived in Japanese language in their whole life,
up a bit.
let me tell you, this is bullshit. It's wasting your time. It's
So is he Japanese? Oh, I thought he was like someone who learned Japanese.
messing up your foundation. And it's
I
training
think
you
he
to
is
speak like you see,
Japanese.
right? You-
His accent sounds Japanese. His title of his channel also.
And you probably feel it already. You study Japanese, you put in the time, you know some grammar, vocabulary, but when you get into real situation with Japanese people, like especially casual settings, like when you're just trying to make friends, trying to flirt, just trying to vibe, something feels off. It feels like there's always an invisible wall between you and the Japanese people. And no matter how much you study, there's always this invisible wall. You can feel it, but you just don't know why it never goes down. Let me tell you.
Do you feel it, guys? Do you feel the invisible wall between you and the Japanese? Have you tried getting closer?
That's not you program. That's the cost you pay when you take this blue pill. But there's a red pill you can take, the one that keeps you away from all of
Oh yeah, I love a good pill. Come on, let's start popping some while we're language learning.
this. And this red pill saves so much of your time. It gives you the foundation of Japanese,
Okay.
and it makes your Japanese so natural that
Wrong. I don't know if it's just me, but have you guys ever considered mixing the pills? You know, just grab the two pills, smash them down, both pills at once. You know, who knows what might happen? You're gonna get like everything. You're gonna be like fucking godlike.
exactly which one to take.
I'm gonna try to skip over his video because we already looked at his whole thing yesterday. Just get to the points where he's actually pausing. There we go.
Now that we finally got some content, is that there is a way that people actually speak, and then there's a way the textbooks write. If you're a Japanese learner,
I
you
mean,
know
that's true, but that's not even exactly what he's talking about. When you get into this a little bit further, he's just talking about verb forms. I mean, yes, he does also touch on the fact that the way the textbooks teach you to talk is not actually a way that sounds very much the way people actually talk in real life, but that's not really the focus of it.
in the comment section. Like, I'm just thinking about other languages. So Mandarin Chinese, we don't really have this issue. In Mandarin Chinese, don't have this issue in Esperanto, don't have this issue in Spanish. But is this true? Is the
there's definitely this issue in Spanish. I mean, the resources he's mostly using for Spanish do a better job of this than textbooks do. That's true. But actually, this is very much true. But this is very much a problem with textbooks in pretty much all the languages. I mean, they've certainly improved over the years, that's true. But this isn't something that is entirely a specifically Japanese issue.
I do know that there's politeness levels, but like, do the textbooks not deal with casual language? It kind of reminds me of that conversation that we were having recently about Thai, because Stuart, who's another creator, I'll put a link over here for him, he's been covering off on different people learning Thai and the methods around that, and how with Thai, that there is like a formalized pronunciation which all the textbooks and, well, I guess like teachers and stuff seem to use, but it's not how Thais actually speak.
Or even if they do, they teach you casual Japanese later, after formal Japanese. When we go back in history, like Murasaki Shikibu, the tale of Genji, and the language being used there is the form of Joyogo, which is Taniguchi, the modern word. And then the measure, which is 1800s, Japan was modernizing rapidly. From the process,
Also, Joyogo and Tameguchi are not quite the same thing. One refers specifically to a verb form, the other is more broadly to a manner of speech.
the Keigo system as we know it today was created and layered on top of casual Japanese, and historians have documented this. There's literally no formal study of Keigo in Japan until the Meiji period. So modern Keigo was essentially standardized in the 1800s as part of the national language.
Oh, I just noticed that on this chart that he's got here that he's showing. Let me see if I
Joyogo,
can.
which is Taniguchi in the modern word. And then measure, which is 1800s, Japan was modernizing rapidly. From the process, the Keigo system as we know it today was created and layered on top of casual Japanese.
Kaerasete itadaku. Oh god, like the this sasete itadaku form that has become very popular because knowing all of the specific keigo, sonkeigo forms for these words is complicated and a pain in the ass, and even for native speakers is somewhat difficult to keep in mind because they're not often used in many cases. Yurugengo Radio had a whole thing about what a pain in the ass, how ugly, and how much they hate the sasete itadaku form.
Historians have documented this. There's literally no formal study of keigo in Japan until the Meiji period.
I mean, not so much how much they personally hate it, but how it is a hated form, particularly amongst people who are sort of linguistic prescriptivists and purists.
Essentially standardized in the 1800s as part of the National Language Project. I've been telling people casual Japanese is the foundation of the entire Japanese language. But I still get some comments like, oh, but you need to learn the proper language first and then you can finally start speaking casual Japanese. Bro, casual Japanese is the foundation of the entire Japanese. The history has already proven it. There's already a history.
So basically, he wants you to focus on learning what people speak. I guess it's kind of a similar conversation around like Arabic and how you see people that say, oh, you must learn, MSA, the standard Arabic, and then learn a dialect. But I'm assuming this is nowhere near to the extreme of what Arabic is.
Behind it. So me saying casual Japanese is the foundation of the entire Japanese, it's not my opinion, it's history. Casual Japanese was always there long before formal Japanese. So
He's right that it's not it's not the same level. I mean, if you listen to regional variants of Arabic versus MSA, they really aren't the same language. What we're talking about in the case of Keigo versus Tameguchi in Japanese is definitely the same language. It is just different verb forms that you use in a particular situation. And some other variations as well. Pronouns and things like that.
The foundation. And formal Japanese was built on top of it later. Formal Japanese is derived from casual Japanese, not the other way around. Now let me show you exactly what I mean. Let's take about iku. Iku is the joyogo, the plain form. The form that has always existed even before formal Japanese formal form was created. And when we made formal language, we took this form, changed the last sound from ku to ki, and added mas at the end. So iku becomes ikimasu. It's not ikimasu becomes iku. Iku becomes ikimasu. So that's what I mean. That's the derivation. And here's what makes this powerful. There are rules to this. Japanese words fall into three categories, which is uborg, luborg.
Hang on. Yeah, this was not. That was very much not an earth-shattering revelation to put in there. That is actually a thing that's in textbooks.
When you think about it, because I did learn Japanese in high school, but it was 1 hour a week, and the teachers didn't speak Japanese really. It was just textbooks. So I remember literally.
Oh wow, that is like.
Remember how to count it.
With only a couple of exceptions, that is exactly my school Japanese class experience, because they could not actually afford to keep somebody on who actually was a trained, skilled Japanese teacher who spoke the language. So we got all sorts of people who didn't know a word of Japanese, and we just used a textbook. But a couple of times we did have some really good Japanese-speaking Japanese teachers, and they did actually teach a lot of the things that this guy, I forget his channel's name, is treating as some sort of revelation. Like
and maybe like some random
verbs
words
here
and there, but I don't remember us ever learning anything about conjugation. That just shows how far 4 years of school got me in Japanese. That was a shit 4 years. Maybe I did learn it though. Well, maybe the teachers taught it and I just didn't pay attention because I was too busy picking my nose or something.
All of it. So you don't have to memorize each form word by word. You learn the root, which is plain casual form, and the rules unlock everything else. But when you take the blue pill, which is to learn formal Japanese first, you skip this completely. You learn ikimasu as it.
Okay, we're skipping.
Right now, I don't know why we need to introduce pills into this, but this makes sense. If there is some type of root.
It's a bad metaphor. It's the hook. It's his Elmo. His Elmo is pills.
That exists. You should be learning that first. Do textbooks really not teach that way in Japanese?
They really don't. They really don't. The textbooks that are standard for teaching foreigners how to speak Japanese do in fact teach a very stilted, very formalized version of Japanese that often is not very closely related to the way anyone talks, regardless of politeness levels. That is true. That is absolutely true. In fact, one of the reasons that I really quite like Context First Japanese with Utah, a channel that we looked at briefly yesterday, and we've looked at a couple of times actually, because he occasionally has some very interesting stuff to talk about, is that he specifically takes some of the examples that come out of these standard textbooks, like Minna no Nihongo, and points out just how bad some of it is.
Which learning formal Japanese first is taking more of your time. It's a longer and harder route that gives you the most work for the least results. And I already told you that this blue pill approach is making people miserable. And guess what? They're training you to be an NPC. Formal Japanese is the language we use with.
Okay, skipping. Because we've already reacted to his video. I want to look at what react to his reaction here. 1 second, I just have something I have to answer here. Sorry for this delay, I just have to get back to somebody. Okay, sorry about that. Potential client and those are so hard to come by in these parlous times that I had to respond immediately.
Into languages, but is this because it like caters to a specific generation? Like, is this like a Gen Z thing where they just talk about pills? Like, I have no idea. Like,
No, I think this is probably somebody who's spent a lot of time around right-wing memes mostly. I don't think this is a Gen Z thing. I mean, like, the NPC thing also is very much a right-wing memes thing.
I understand kind of what's going on here. It's like, it's just a way of saying, oh, this is the traditional way and this is now the new way or the proper way or the way that's been hidden from us all this time. Obviously, the whole pill thing's just kind of like a way to, you know, point at that. This is what they said, but this is what you should do. But is this something that the new generation speaks in?
I don't think so, actually.
I don't know.
Of course, people are evolving the hierarchy. But do you notice
Okay, skipping.
you're literally telling them, don't get too close to me. We're not that close. I'm trying.
That's a kind of interesting observation. It will be interesting to learn a language that deals with politeness, because I know Korean does it. Like, Chinese has some remnants of it left over. Just tiny, tiny little remnants, okay? So, like, you know, you'll say ni, which is you, but then you've got nin, which is, like, you, but it's a bit more formal, and it's usually used for people who are older than you. But, like, that's literally it. There's barely anything else left.
Advanced level, like really good. The signal becomes so obvious, because Japanese people have grown up in this culture in their entire life.
A lot of way. Me, I'd stop her and I'd be like, babe, you gotta use please, or you gotta use could you, like these types of structures. Like, I understand it realistically adds nothing, but it adds a feeling, and that feeling is
That isn't nothing though. The vibe. So much of language is just about vibes. So much of it is just vibes that you're adding to the actual content. In fact, I would say probably most of language is vibe selection. If you're, and to me, what the conclusion from that is that if you're, any method for learning a language really needs to be a method that includes helping people understand the vibes and helping them be deliberate about selecting them. It's all about vibes.
Insult. And it was pretty hard for her to wrap her head around. She's managed to get a lot better at it over like the last 5 years or so, and it's very rarely I have to point that out. But still, I can see how like just that slight difference that makes a big difference in English. And here, if you've got a whole different register for, you know, formality and stuff, it's
there are multiple registers. In fact, it's there's a lot. There's all sorts of stuff because it's not just the verb forms. The verb forms are important, and there are lots of different particular polite verb forms. There's also an entire set of insulting verb forms. They exist merely to be insulting to whoever the subject of the verb is. You add yagaru to it, and if you do that, that is very strong, and actually a lot of people will not like you to be using it. You might get told off for using it. And if you use it directly at somebody in your presence, that is, it would be considered sort of on the level of fighting words as well. Like, if this is a whole complex thing, and there's all sorts of stuff to navigate. So that is why just telling people, oh, just use casual forms all over the place and people will be more open to you and everything, it doesn't really work that way.
That people are going to, if you speak to them in a certain way, even if it's not your intention, they're going to treat you in a certain way.
So the moment someone speaks formal Japanese to them in a casual setting, the invisible wall goes up automatically. Not because they wanted to.
I mean, like, this is just another thing. The more I think about it, is yes, there's an outsider script that turns on. But it's not just because of the way you talk. It is because you are probably socially from an outgroup relative to the people you're meeting. You know, they don't know you. So you're not going to be immediately accepted into the fray. I mean, sometimes you'll be around people who are just that open and somehow you immediately are sort of welcomed. But there is kind of you know, it can be quite a slow thing because you are, in fact, coming from outside in a lot of ways. When you're talking to people you don't know. So it isn't just if you, you know, if you speak in casual Japanese, you immediately sort of jump over that. It's that's something you have to navigate socially and culturally.
That's what's happening. But it seems like he's dropping some actual interesting information. Like, I don't know if this is like standard, every learner knows about this stuff, but to me...
most of this stuff, if you're an absolute beginner, you wouldn't know about a lot of this stuff. If you've had a couple of years of Japanese, just like standard instruction, you probably know a fair bit of what he's talking about, even if you can put it into practice.
Doing research into the language at the moment, this makes sense, obviously, but also it's actually providing me with value.
Just learn one word and know the rules, you can instantly make formal form, negative form, past form, past tense, progressive form, any forms, all of it, from just learning one word. When it's like English, we know how to say I can't, I don't, I'm not going to, I don't want to, I'm not supposed to. Like when we know these patterns, we can take any verbs we want to say what we want using these different forms, these endless list years memorizing.
Okay. I think we're going to just move on to something else because this isn't. I mean, this is mostly him just going, "Oh, okay, this is interesting. Oh, I didn't know that," and I mean that's not the most fascinating thing to be reacting to. So I'm going to switch over. He has one called "Should you worry about sounding natural in your target language?" And the thumbnail says, just use AI, bro. And yeah, don't do that. That's a bad idea.
What's up, grinders? Welcome back to the channel. Guess what we're going to discuss today? Language learning. I know we've been doing a little bit of that recently, haven't we? Okay, we're going to respond to a comment that was left under this video right here, how to use Anki for language learning plus programming. Now, this was a video where I was teaching how to use the tool Anki, a simple SRS tool, okay? And I just walked
it's always funny when I hear that. No, he's using it to stand for spaced repetition. in certain cultural milieu, it means something else.
The process of what I like to do. I didn't talk about, everything I do with language learning. It was just basically Anki. And I split it up into 3 parts. I went, there's a speaking component, a reading component, and a listening component. This is how you can do it because you guys have all been demanding an Anki tutorial. Now, I knew straight away after I made that video that some people are going to have some qualms with the fact that I was using AI to generate sentences. I've seen these comments before, but generally my response is, you're overthinking it. Yes,
No, you're not overthinking it. He's underthinking it. That is a problem he has generally. This is another example of it. Evil Dia is underthinking it. And the thing is, using these chatbots a lot actually encourages people to underthink things. It is actually corrosive to your ability, to like analytical abilities and stuff like that.
Using AI. Yes, AI is not perfectly natural, but realistically,
no, it's just garbage. It is, you're just getting garbage, and it's also destroying the environment, but I mean, the fact that it's garbage should be enough reason not to use it. There are so many better resources out there.
worrying about the most minor of details before you have even got the broad strokes. So think about it like you're learning to paint a scenic landscape, okay? You've never painted a scenic landscape before. So you're sitting here and you're like, okay, I gotta paint a sun, I gotta paint some mountains, I gotta put some trees in here, and I need to put a seagull over there on a car. I don't know how to paint a seagull. I don't know how to paint feathers. I don't know how to do the little claws on its feet, and then just start stressing out about the claws because you don't want to start painting them because they come out wrong. Then it's
yeah, but the thing is that there you're actually doing the thing. You're doing the thing. That's still better than using a garbage generator and.
Are we? Bro, you haven't learned how to paint a sun. Why are you worried about the claws of the seagull? Okay, that's how I see these things. First, get the broad strokes down. Once you're good at that, yes, everything will look slightly unnatural and bad.
But this doesn't help you get the broad strokes down. There are lots of other ways. There are lots of ways that actually would. This does not do that.
The more you iterate on it, the more you do it, the more you can focus in on certain aspects and clean those up. Don't worry about the claws of the seagull before you're able to paint the goddamn sun, okay? So, we're going to respond to a comment here, which kind of follows along that logic. Now, this is not me calling the person out. This is just me making a video based on this comment. You guys giving me comments actually spawned so many ideas in my head, so I do appreciate it. Personally, this seems like a bad idea. Chinese and English are languages I was born with. I tested out the text-to-speech app, and while it sounds decent, it definitely wasn't perfect. So, I'm just going to say one thing straight up. If you're using text-to-speech, you have already accepted the fact that it's not perfect. Everyone knows text-to-speech is not perfect. If you're looking for a perfect text-to-speech engine out there, I don't know what you're doing, because they don't exist, at least not at this stage in human history. Now,
but the thing is, I mean, the way he talks about these things, the way a lot of people talk about so-called AI, implies that you're in a pinch, it's either this or nothing. It is never this or nothing. It is this or superior methods of doing the same thing that will get you better results, and often are no harder. Acting like this is like if there's this whole way that some people talk about shit like ChatGPT, where it's like, well, if we didn't have this, we'd have nothing. It's like, no. Just a couple of years ago, we didn't have this. We had plenty. We had better things than this. This is not better than the things that we used to use. That's why a lot of us still use them, because this actually sucks.
In the 90 to 95+% range. Yeah, that may sound a little bit mechanical. Maybe they'll screw up some words here and there slightly. Maybe like the sentence structure will be like, I'll put like a random pause somewhere, but it just...
Okay, I mean, it's absolutely shit to do basically anything. But here's the fundamental problem. I mean, leaving aside just the environmental destructiveness and everything, what these chatbots do, and we should get away from using the marketing term AI. The point of the term AI is to associate these technologies with a concept from science fiction. And that is often being done very deliberately, which is why you have these think tanks funded by tech bros that are all about the supposed threat that, ChatGPT will turn into Skynet and start hunting down Sarah Connor. This is an actual thing. And the reason they do that is so that you will mentally associate their garbage generator with sentient computers, which do not exist, which probably cannot exist. We certainly do not have them now, and none of their technology is even close to it. That is the whole idea. So I try to get away from that term in the first place, and when I use the term AI, I write quotes around it. I put inverted commas on it. What we're talking about here is something called an LLM, a large language model. And what large language models actually do, they don't know anything. They don't understand anything. They don't understand your input. They don't understand their output. What they do is do some very sophisticated statistical modeling. So the idea is to figure out what they're trying to do with this, with these calculations, is work out based on their training data, which we'll get to in a second because there are issues with the nature of their training data, what the most probable next word after the most recent word is. Now, that's all they're doing. It is, they are probabilistic text generators. So they are only as good as their training data, and here's the thing about their training data. Their training data is largely just shit that they found on the internet, which means a lot of it is advertising copy, because a huge amount of the internet is just advertising crap. But then you add to that the fact that these days, most of the text on the internet was crapped out by these probabilistic text generators. Which means that rather than, being trained and developing their probability model on actual human-generated, real language that people are using, they are generating it based on the crap that other LLMs are putting out. This is leading to something called model collapse. And it's something that the tech bros that are making billions off of people's unrealistic expectations of these technologies have gone to great lengths to avoid talking about. Because the result is that actually with every new iteration, with every new training pass, this stuff is getting clunkier and more unnatural and more fake every single time. So it is becoming, so they're actually getting worse. They are actually getting more artificial and less intelligent, to put it that way. So, now, if this were the only thing available to do the thing that he's talking about, then you would say, okay, maybe sometimes that, that's a valid use case or whatever. But the thing is, it's not. There are lots of ways that you can actually do better. Like what he's saying is, in another video we watched last week, he was saying what you do is you ask ChatGPT about how your target language works. You don't need to do that. If you want a general overview of how your target language works, you type in the name of the language and you type Wikipedia in any search engine. You will get a Wikipedia article that gives you some general overview of how the language works. Yeah, you will probably, if you type in just language name and introduction, you will get a number of pages by actual people who actually know about this stuff, who will tell you about how, give you an introduction to how the language works and give you some basics about it. You type in the language name and grammar, you will get all sorts of resources on that. If you do that on YouTube, same thing. There is so much better stuff out there. There is absolutely no need to resort to this, garbage. It is absolutely inferior. And here's the other thing. Hey, Atta, how you doing? This stuff is actually killing the internet on a certain level. So, because the thing is, people are reading things like these so-called AI summaries or whatever, which are often inaccurate. But also it means that no traffic is being driven to the websites that these technologies, that these LLMs have cannibalized in order to generate the summaries. That means that everybody who was involved in actually creating useful resources, actually researching the information and putting it out there and making it accessible and stuff like that, those people are being starved of funds. So it becomes harder for them to actually continue doing the things that they're doing. So on so many levels, this is just such a bad idea. There are so many better ways. Okay, let's say if you want some fundamentals on Japanese, there are tons of YouTube channels with actual teachers, actual experts on the subject who will explain all sorts of stuff, give you all kinds of introductions. There are comprehensible input pages that with beginner level content that is very good. There's all sorts of stuff. If you just want an overview of how the grammar works, there's definitely a good Wikipedia article on it, because all the well-known languages have extremely detailed stuff on Wikipedia that tends to be quite accurate. At the very least, it's tolerably accurate, enough for somebody who is just getting started out to get an overview of basic ideas. Oh, I'm doing pretty good. So, like, there are just so many better resources out there. It is really no harder to access them. And it is both better for the environment and better for the world of people who actually put in the work to make this knowledge available. So, I mean, there are just so many reasons not to do this.
It's not quite perfect yet, okay? We accept that. But the benefits massively outweigh the disadvantages. The benefit
Okay, what are the disadvantages?
being is I can literally generate a audio file for a sentence that I've got no audio for. That's one of the benefits, okay? So first up, that's what I want to say about that. Now, a great example was one of the other comments in this video where someone said, hey, why don't you just clip the audio from that guy rather than using, saying text-to-speech for his sentence?
Yeah, that's a good example of something that would be better.
Well, when he said his sentence, he actually halfway through changed his mind, then changed his mind back. So there was like this random little stutter in the middle where he introduced a new word, which if I'm practicing the whole sentence, I don't want to practice that random little stutter, because humans, we make that mistake, okay? We
Oh, I'm glad. I try. It's actually, I mean, you ask good questions. This is, called "Should You Worry About Sounding Natural in Your Target Language?" and it's and the thumbnail is "Just Use AI, bro," and it's once again him acting like there is nothing better. Like in this case, okay, you have a specific sentence that you want that you want to be read in your target language, so that you have a phonetic model. You have the internet here. There are like language learning communities all over the internet. If you want somebody to read something in Japanese and just put an audio file, I'm pretty sure you could find somebody who'd be happy to do it. If it's just like one sentence or something like that, something really simple, you can almost certainly find that.
say things halfway through, change our mind, sometimes go backwards. Like, I wanted the original sentence without that component within it, okay? So I'm not going to take that sentence and take it into an audio program, cut out that little... No, I'm just going to run that through an audio, like text-to-speech. Same thing. Sure, it's not going to be exactly like him, but it doesn't really matter.
I mean, it may be totally wrong is the thing.
You could tell that it was machine spoken. Likewise, the sentences you generate are also likely slightly off from being
Oh, they're not, and slightly off as if you're lucky.
I'm guessing he says likely because he's actually not too sure himself.
No, I mean, he's being nice, actually. He's being kind. I mean, I can't speak to the intention. The intention here, but this is an understatement.
But, it's possible. Similar to how one could possibly tell if an essay was AI generated. Now, this is
He said probably, not possibly.
Same thing. You guys
and the reason you can generally tell, first of all, the AI detection tools are actually garbage. They're also garbage. They use the exact same technology, and the result of that is that they get false positives all the time. Like, somebody ran Mary Shelley's Frankenstein through one of these detectors, and it said that it was AI generated. They're useless. But if you know what good writing is like, and you've read enough of these, LLM generated texts, you know what the tells are, because it is structurally distinct, and because it focuses on what it's mostly learned is how to write badly.
AI generated websites, emails, all this type of stuff before, right? It sounds AI generated not because it's bad, as in the
yeah, that is literally why it sounds AI generated.
Language written is bad.
It is bad.
The language is actually better than most people write.
No, it really isn't. It really isn't.
The issue is it writes in a certain style, and we all recognize the AI style. It's kind of become, ambiguous.
Because the style is the distillation of advertising cliches.
Not ambiguous, ubiquitous, whatever. The fucking word is okay. It's noticeable to pretty much anyone because it writes in a certain style now, and people go, that is the AI style. For example, the EM dashes. Everyone recognizes the overuse of them, okay? But is the language bad? Is it...
Yes.
Actually grammatically incorrect?
Yes.
No, okay? Not for the big languages. It's most of the time actually correct. More...
how is he saying this? Yeah, how is he going to talk about most of the time? He doesn't know most of these languages.
Correct, then most people can actually write at this point, okay? So, yeah.
I mean, this is just nonsense.
you may come away if you use a ton of this, and this is only in the worst case scenario. Let's say you only learn from Anki. You may come away like talking a little bit like a clanker, but you're going to be completely comprehensible. You may make.
No, you aren't necessarily going to be comprehensible, because what he's assuming is that the problem is entirely stylistic. The problem is not entirely stylistic. Yes, you will. I mean, you will sound like you will speak with the shitty cliches of one of these LLMs, because that is what they're very good at, is shitty cliches. But you will likely also just learn things that are wrong, because that's the other thing that they're really good at, is getting things wrong.
One slight little mistake here or there, but still 100% comprehensible. Okay, like if I could walk away talking like.
See, comprehensible does not mean that you actually are understood to be saying the thing you think you're saying, and that is the problem. That is really the big problem, because this is a technology that's known to do what are called hallucinations. They will add stuff that you never said.
ChatGPT in Chinese, bro, I am better than fucking every hyperpolyglot on YouTube who's tried to learn Chinese. Just straight up, because it's written so goddamn well. Okay, but yes, it is still affected as an AI by being a little bit unnatural. But realistically, that leads me into the next part of: is anyone natural sounding who's learning?
Yes, lots of people are.
Another language, but we'll get to that.
Yes, seriously, lots of people are natural sounding. And they're natural sounding because they acquired the language naturally from actual people who are speakers of the language. And so they speak it in a way that is, at the very least, a close approximation of the way that people actually talk.
In a moment. I think the issue here is that with Anki it takes quite a lot of time, especially considering they have multiple sentences per card, which makes the issue worse. If you spend an hour a day doing Anki, you're going to be reading and repeating sentences over and over. When your sentences are unnatural even by a small margin, the constant repetition is likely to start to train your brain to speak unnaturally. The same applies to audio. You're learning unnatural sounds.
Yeah.
In fact, you have so
I
many
mean,
sentences
all of this is very, all of this is quite valid. And again, the issue here is not just that this tool sucks. It's that there are plenty of better ways to do this.
It's also amplifying this effect. The wider range of content you get, the less likely you're going to sound in one specific way. When you have 5 slightly unnatural sentences for each card, it just makes the chance of you getting used to unnatural sentences even higher, because your brain is constantly trying to adapt 5 sentences per word, all of which are likely not natural.
I mean, I think that this is kind of overblowing it a bit, because assuming that you actually get to the point where you're also engaging with authentic use of the language, authentic input, you know, you're not. Some of this is going to be corrected, because fossilization isn't really a thing. But there's no reason to be using this stuff in the first place, because there are just better ways.
Of your brain seeing native content, 1 unnatural sentence, it's seeing native content in 5 unnatural sentences, and the 5 ones are going to be repeating over and over, and therefore, you're going to sound unnatural. So here's what I'm going to say about this, because I have good experience in learning with Anki and without Anki, okay? So I'm going to refer to both here. Now, first up, with Anki, if the majority of your time is spent with Anki, I'm going to do a hot take here and say you're doing language learning wrong, okay? Yes?
I mean, I will agree with him here. That is absolutely... I mean, even if you find any use for flashcards, and I think, again, I happen to agree with Steve Kaufman on the subject of using them to a very limited extent for priming, but they absolutely should not be the main part of your diet, because you're just never going to get anywhere. You're just going to do rote memorization.
Anki is a powerful tool. I don't know how many times I need to say this, but it should not make up the majority of your time when you're learning a language. It should be a portion, 30 to 40%, like let's say max. When I was young,
I mean, I would say probably 5 to 6%, if we're going to try to quantify it.
more hardware, I would be more to the 40% range. But now I've realized that, I need a bit more input, so I'm going down. I'm pulling that back to like the 30% range. And that's what you should be aiming for. So if you're doing an hour on Anki per day, that means you should be doing, what, like 3 plus hours of input on top of that. That way, one, everything you're learning in Anki and priming your brain for, you've actually then using with the language. You're hearing it constantly. Your brain's being primed by Anki. Now it's being cemented. All those definitions, that you can only pick up from context are now being pulled in from the natural context. So again, Anki is...
I mean, he's kind of got this backwards. Because what flashcards are potentially good for, and they're not the only thing that is good for this, is getting you ready to hear things in your natural input that you're likely to hear. So, if you're watching a cookery video, use them to prime you on things that you find in a kitchen or stuff like that. So, If you're using them for that, then it actually helps to make the input more comprehensible, and you will probably derive more benefit from it. But he seems to be saying to do it the other way around, and I mean, maybe I'm misunderstanding that, but that doesn't make a lot of sense.
It's a mark in your brain, like a crosshair for the actual language when you hear it. So it goes, yeah, well, that's the word I know, and it connects it up. Okay, that's what it's meant to do. You're not meant to try and learn an entire language from Anki. Now let's talk about the naturalness thing here. The concern being, I'm going to step away sounding like ChatGPT. If I did actually sound like ChatGPT, that would be way better than my current state in any language. Which I speak probably.
Yeah, but the question is not if it's better than your current state in any language. The question is it better than you could achieve by using better resources? By using real language learning resources instead of this garbage generator. This is a false comparison.
Even so, English. So I'm not too concerned about that. But let's dive into that a little bit, because what's the alternative here? What can we do to avoid this? Well, I guess we could go a full input-based approach, where all we do is just watch natural input. Does that mean you're going to cut out people who are non-natives of the language? Because like if you're just watching full input and then some Indian guy pops up and he's speaking English and like you're doing full input.
I mean, I would say you don't, because it's actually, apart from everything else, you're likely to hear. First of all, a lot of people in India are native English speakers because there is an Indian variation of English. There is Indian English with its own vocabulary. Like, English is one of the major languages of India. It's just Indian English. So not necessarily a non-native speaker in that sense. Not a non-native speaker of like Australian English, sure, or of like North American English or whatever, but certainly a native speaker of English. But yeah, it is useful to actually get accustomed to hearing and understanding such variations, because you're likely to do so. You're likely to hear them in real life. So that's not a bad thing.
Of English, and he's speaking English. Oh, I can tell he's non-native. Oh, I can't listen to him because he's going to like infect my language. Does like, where do you draw the line basically? Do you go, well, okay?
But that's not the same thing at all. It is still miles better to be getting your English from a non-native fluent English speaker than it is to be getting it from ChatGPT.
Deem Australian English to be the true English. I'm going to pick my own for this example. But, you could take it to the extreme and go, no, it needs to be Sydney English, So it's like, where do you draw the line on what is quality and what is not, okay? Because obviously the Australian English is slightly different to the British English, slightly different to the American English, which is then slightly different to...
I would say actually a little bit more than slightly in a lot of ways. Though they are certainly mutually intelligible.
Different regions of Africa, or even in India itself, okay? So like there's many different variations out there, and with time they become very, very different, and this can all affect the way you speak, obviously, if you're doing a lot of input. So I guess you could just go to the major players and just watch all their content and just do that and don't speak, because you want to make sure you understand.
Yeah, but this is not the same thing. All of these things are superior to what he's describing as his preferred method here. Because all of these things are the way actual people actually talk. That is all good. That is all better than the way a probabilistic text generator statistically decides to layer a couple of words on top of each other. All of these things are superior to his preference here.
I feel like we're almost stepping into ALG territory when we do that, aren't we? What happens after 1,000 hours of ALG? For those who don't know, that's automatic language growth. It's actually a theory I've been testing. Do you then start speaking in a natural way? Because...
okay, so does he... I'm hoping at some point he's going to understand that just because speech emerges, nobody's saying that means you immediately come out sounding perfect. You still have to develop, your speech still has to develop from there, but once you get to that spontaneous speech point.
After all, you've only been getting specific type of content, right? No, you don't. You basically just start reskinning your natural language, native language, with whatever language you're learning in some way. And the sentences that you first start producing, they're unnatural. And then even if...
they're not necessarily unnatural, actually. The pronunciation may be off. There will almost certainly be quite halting. But they aren't necessarily going to be unnatural. That's not the same thing.
You keep away the Anki, the AI, all that, and you just keep watching content, and you only speak with people who are natives of the language, you're going to cement bad habits, and you're going to have to go back and rework those.
Wait a second. So, fossilization is something we have to worry about when you're dealing with when you're getting your input from native speakers, from human beings who speak the language fluently or are native speakers, but not if you're doing it with ChatGPT. Like, why is it, what sense does that make?
Bad habits are going to be unnatural in the language you're learning. Now you might be thinking, oh, evil did, you're taking it to the extreme, the ALG. Why can't you then just...
I know, what I'm thinking is that he's contradicting himself. Either this is not a worry because it will iron itself out because you're doing more input and stuff like that, and it helps you develop your speech and you become more natural over time, or this is going to cement in bad habits. You can't have it both ways there.
Sentence mind books. Well, you can. It's going to take you so much more time because you've got to find the right sentences, right? The whole point of my system here is just to get a lot of words into my head and to understand their different meanings based on the type of content I'm watching. So I guess I could just grab a sentence from a book and then if I want more examples of it, scan through the book looking for that exact same...
Or you could ask people. You could talk to people. If you're learning Chinese and you're trying to understand what, the actual way an actual Chinese speaker will say the thing that you're trying to say, you could just ask him to say it. So there will be, you can't just go up to random people and do that. That's gonna annoy people. That'll be a bit creepy sometimes. But there are certainly people who are out there, and if you just want like a sentence or two, they will be happy to do it. If you're in the right online communities, you will certainly find these people who will just be willing to speak into a microphone and say the sentence or two that you're trying to get. There's no reason you have to rely on all these things, on fucking the garbage production terminals.
Structure that I want and put that in. It's going to take so much time. It's just a time cost issue now. Okay. Well, you could then, I guess, just go with tutors. But have you ever gone with a tutor before? When you're speaking with a tutor, what happens, guys? Like, I've done a lot of tutoring myself, and I have different degrees of tutoring based on what the student wants. I will correct your absolute fatal mistakes where I cannot comprehend you, or I will correct those mistakes that, you keep regularly making, but I do understand you, or I will correct literally nothing because you don't want me to correct anything, you just want to practice, and you want to keep cementing whatever mistakes you're making. Because...
Wait, okay, so now we're back to your cementing. So, cementing only happens when you're dealing with, human beings? Is that it? I'm not understanding which way... I do not see how these two things compute. They both contradict each other very clearly.
Even if you go with a tutor and you ask them to check all of these sentences for you, which is going to be very, very costly, or if you've got a native available, okay, they may give you correct sentences and you're going to read that and go, great, that's how I say this, I'm going to go practice it now, but it only works in the context in which you learned it. So there is...
Well, yes, but that's how language is. That's how language is. A lot of things only work in a specific context. It's all context. It's all context-based. And that's another thing that these LLMs are not really good with, because, again, they don't comprehend things. They don't comprehend words. They don't comprehend context. They don't know anything. They are just modeling probabilities. And those probabilities are only as good as the data that's been fed into them. And these days, the overwhelming majority of that data will actually be stuff generated by other garbage production terminals. So you're likely to get stuff that's not great in any context. But yeah, all these things are going to be contextually dependent. Always. That is just a thing that you have to take into account when you're learning a language.
Certain things where you can say it multiple different contexts in English and you can get a perfect translation for that context that you're in and not realize that you can't reapply that to another context and then you're going to use it in that
well, yeah, this is why just translating sentences and using that to memorize isn't good, actually. This is why that whole method is not great. Because you are learning something and you think it's good in every context, but actually it only means the thing you want in one particular context because there are other words to describe these things in different contexts or whatever. This is why this is not a great method to begin with.
You sound unnatural now. So this whole fear...
It's not necessarily that you sound unnatural. What you're saying may simply not mean the thing you expect it to.
Round not sounding natural or picking up unnatural stuff. This is worrying about the minor details without yet having got the broad strokes of the language down pat. No matter what method you take out there, okay? I can't think of literally any method that you take that you're going to basically form natural, coherent, perfect sentences from day one.
Well, you're going to have a better chance of it if you rely on input from actual speakers of the languages, though. There are things that are more likely and less likely.
Even long-term, okay? You need to practice, iterate, fix, over. And you see this, even everyone loves to go to...
Yes, exactly, Alta. That's a very good point. It helps with learning how each culture surrounding the language reacts to things or show emotions like shock, sadness, and excitement, etc. Yeah, absolutely. The more it gives you also, you are getting the sort of associations, the contextual associations that allow you to say, well, maybe this is not the way that they would say this thing that is the same words in English. When you translate it into English, it comes out as the exact same words, but it may be completely different in your target language. And if you have that kind of context, that can really help.
The child example. We've all seen children, right? They all screw up their language. It sounds unnatural a lot of the time, okay?
No, it doesn't sound unnatural. It doesn't sound prescriptively correct because they're just, they're just developing. They're just developing it. They're taking the first steps. It doesn't sound unnatural though. That's not what unnatural means. Unnatural and incorrect aren't the same thing. There are natural mistakes a person can make. In fact, I mean, this is a whole thing in linguistics when we're talking about these things, because there are the sort of things that would constitute like grammatical errors that people actually make in the language, and there's sort of mistakes that nobody ever makes. Natural and correct are not the same thing.
And guess what? Some children are still screwing up by the time that they get to school, that they go into literal therapy, speech therapy, to correct their pronunciation, to correct the way that they speak. Like, this is one of those things where you're never going to be perfect, so don't try to be perfect. Work with what you got, get there as fast as you can, in like a realistic manner.
Get where though? What's the objective?
I'm not saying like a short period of time. Get to the point where you're able to communicate and understand, then fix your major problems. Once you fix your major problems, then go to the more minor ones, and the minor ones. Realistically, you only have to worry when you stop caring. That's the point at which, anything unnatural is going to be cemented, or as that magic word always pops up in language learning, be fossilized. So
except that fossilization still isn't a thing.
It's about these things. Yeah, sure. AI is not perfect. Probably better than any materials I'm going to get my hands on. Really?
No, it isn't. I mean, it's not even better than the things you can get for free. This is what happens when all you ever do is look at what chatbots come up with. If you just do that, you could get the idea that there's nothing better. But if you actually just use search engines, just use actual search engines and look for things, you will find superior stuff, and you will find it probably for free for pretty much any major language. But it is time for me to take a little bio break. I will be back in just a few minutes.
Hey, implicit connotations. I'm Elise from the Crowdfunded Translation Project, and wanted to just tell you a little bit about what that project is and give you some updates about what I've been doing with your support. The Inessa Armand project. After finishing Kalantai's social basis of the female question, I put out a call for suggestions for the next project. One of those suggestions that I received was to translate the essays and letters of Inessa Armand, Kalantai's predecessor at the Bolshevik Women's section. Suppressed by Stalin and never translated into English, Armand's writings enrich our understanding of the Bolshevik women's movement in the run-up to the October Revolution and the early days of revolutionary Russia. With your support, I have been able to translate all of her extant essays and am currently raising the last $1,950 to cover the cost of translating the remainder of her extant works, which at this point is just her correspondence. If you would like to support the project, all contributions are beautiful. You'll find links in the description. The Punto Final project is a project that is really just at its inception. Punto Final, for those unfamiliar with it, i.e. likely most of the people watching this right now, was a magazine edited by Manuel Caviese Donoso that ran from 1965 to the eve of the 1973 CIA-backed coup in Chile, and then from 1989 to 2018, publishing a grand total of 894 issues. In addition to being a platform for theoretical and ideological debate, they were also a source of excellent political journalism. Their real-time analysis of political developments in Chile, the rise of the Unidad Popular, the looming coup, and the limits of electoralism has aged extremely well, and is well worth reading for anyone interested in the period. The Chilean left is sort of in a media bubble, and the Anglosphere left really doesn't do a great job of breaking that bubble and really building connections there. So the discussion that you hear in English about Chile, even in supposed left outlets, such as Jargon, often has little or nothing to do with the state of discussion amongst comrades in Chile. So this is part of my attempts to contribute to sort of breaking down that bubble and fostering some understanding of the thought amongst revolutionaries in Chile, both historically and currently. I have so far translated 7 articles, including a long read on electoralism versus armed struggle called Chile, the Ballad or the Bullet by Punto Final editor Manuel Caviese, and currently am working on various pieces of political analysis from the eve of the electoral campaign that would bring Salvador Allende to power, or at least to government. These include discussions of electoral versus revolutionary strategy and how and to what extent these things can coexist, discussions of US imperialist interference in Chilean politics, One of the challenges of this project, since its inception, has been getting the word out. The billionaire-controlled black box algorithms that dominate our lives don't like small creators or small projects. Nor are they particularly keen on ideological viewpoints that are inconsistent with the whims of billionaires. What's more, they positively detest anyone who isn't paying for reach. And then they turn around and make it ever harder to do even that in a useful way. The result of all this is that there are definitely considerably more people who would be interested in this project than actually see any of my posts about it. And that's why I have a small favor to ask you. Tell your friends about the crowdfunded translation project. Share the completed translations, link the Patreon and the Facebook pages. All those links are in the description. Let people know that this project exists and what it's all about. Let them know that I want to hear their ideas for future crowdfunded translation projects at crowdfunded_translations@elisehendrick.com. And if you've got any ideas, I'd love to hear them. Ultimately, the crowdfunded translation project is for us all. The whole idea is to translate texts that have fallen through the cracks by making it economically viable for a professional translator, i.e. me, to work on them and to make the results freely available to everyone. I think that a lot of great things are coming out of the project. And even more can result from it yet. But it all depends on making the project visible to the people who might benefit from it and consider supporting it. Thank you for watching for this length of time. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope that it will encourage you to get in touch with the crowdfunded translation project, look at our translations, to get in touch with, to get involved with the crowdfunded translation project. Make suggestions, read the translations, let people know that this exists. This could be a great resource, but it's been a real fucker trying to get the word out about it. So thank you very much. Even watching this.
And I'm back. Oh, that is interesting, Badger. Thanks for... I was wondering where James Joyce came into it. I've never really read James Joyce. So I wasn't sure what the deal with, the inverted commas there was in James Joyce. So that's an interesting thing. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, so actually this video is basically over. So let us see what more we've got. Okay, there's another Yuta video that looked interesting. Because, I mean, again, speaking of sounding natural and all of that, he does such a good job of explaining why the vibe is off. I personally find that useful myself, because sometimes people ask me to explain why the vibe is off in Japanese. Because I know when the vibe is off most of the time, but I don't necessarily know why it's off. And he does a very good job of explaining why it's off. So this is why we don't say Osaka wa nigiyaka desu ka, which is meant to be like the Japanese for is Osaka lively, but it sounds.
Osaka wa nigiyaka desu ka?
This is, I'm guessing, yeah, it's Minna no Nihongo. Minna no Nihongo seems to be an amazing source of nobody's Japanese. Like, literally the title means everybody's Japanese, and yet a lot of the time it seems like it's actually nobody's Japanese.
Lively? Hi, nigiyaka desu. Yes, it's lively. This makes me think, when do we actually say this? And I feel like even in English, it's not super common to say something like, is Osaka lively? And it's not...
I mean, you might say, is it a lively sort of place? Is it a happening place or something like that? Yeah, you might say something like, not necessarily that way though, actually, thinking about it.
Really that's super common to use nigiyaka this way. Nigiyaka is actually not super common in everyday conversational Japanese.
I was just thinking, it's so funny to hear that just now. Because I was watching this show, I forget which one it was. I think it might have been Goku-san, which is this comedy about a school teacher, a high school teacher in Japan who has to hide from the school that her family is the mob, that her family is Yakuza, and somebody actually said nigiyaka. And I couldn't help thinking to myself, that was literally the first time I'd ever heard anyone say nigiyaka. And I was sitting here thinking, is that just, is that selection bias on my part? Or is this really as unusual a word to hear in conversation as all that? So it's just very interesting to hear him say that. So it isn't just me. It is indeed a word that you do not actually hear in conversation a lot. Neat. Cool.
I think you see this more often in written Japanese, as in like an event report.
Yes,
you can say,
true.
Omatsuri festival, and say, Omatsuri wa totemo nigiyaka deshita. The festival was very lively. But in conversation, a more common scenario is like somebody tells you.
Oh shit, that's still hot. That's way too hot still.
They're from Osaka. You can use shushin, origin, and say, Shushin doko desu ka? Where are you from? Osaka desu. I'm from Osaka. It's not very ladylike, power. And you can use donna, what kind, tokoro, place, and say, 大阪ってどんなところですか?
Yeah, what kind of
What
place is
kind of
Osaka?
place is Osaka?
Or Donnamachi?
And in this kind of situation, it's very, very unlikely that you'd say, 大阪は賑やかですか? It probably doesn't happen in real life communication.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is a weird sentence. Just not even getting into how you say it, but like it is like when it is true. Like when would you actually specifically ask this?
But if this is between native Japanese speakers, you probably wouldn't say 大阪ってどんなところですか? Because we already have some kind of ideas about
Yeah, Osaka is actually is kind of a known quantity. People, Osaka has all sorts of. There's a meta around Osaka in Japan, around the way people talk, around the things that people eat, okonomiyaki, toka, and stuff like that. So yeah, true.
Osaka. So let's think about a different place like Kitayase, because nobody goes there casually.
I'm not even
Especially
sure where that
with
is.
a weird train that you can only take from a specific part of the platform, like it's how.
Oh, Chiyodana. Okay, this is part of Tokyo. A part of Tokyo I have never heard of.
Harry Potter, platform 9 3/4. So I'm gonna use sunderu, which is a contraction of sundeiru, to live, and say, どこ住んでますか? Where do you live? 北綾瀬です. And your reaction will be, え? 北綾瀬? どこですか?
Yeah.
北綾瀬? Where is that? Because nobody knows where that is. And then you can ask, 北綾瀬ってどんなところですか?
Yeah. So just asking generally what kind of place it is.
What kind of place is 北綾瀬? And you can use
絶対に賑やかではないのです。It is absolutely not lively.
何もない there's nothing, and say 何もないところです
A
There's
place where there isn't anything.
nothing there, and that is a fact. Now when we talk about cities, especially in the context
This would explain why I've never heard of it.
of living there, a very common expression that we use is 住みやすい easy to live, comfortable to live, good to live. 住む means to live, and something 安い means it's easy to do something, and in
A
this
livable
context,
place.
it's like it's good to live. So if somebody asks you 北安ってどんなところですか? You can say 住みやすいところです It's a good place to live. Another word
Is it though? I mean, if it's a nanimonai tokoro, then surely it's more sort of suminikui. I personally find places where there isn't anything to be difficult to live in.
we might use is 静か quiet, because we care about our neighborhood not being super noisy. So you can say 静かなところです It's a quiet place. And you can combine these words and say something like 北綾瀬は何もないけど住みやすいです There's really nothing in 北綾瀬 but it's a good place to live. 北綾瀬は静かで住みやすいです 北綾瀬 is quiet and it's a good place.
Okay. Actually, this is an interesting. There's a channel, quite worthwhile. I've seen some very interesting stuff on there called Scripting Japan. And since we were just talking about sounding natural in your target language and stuff, there just happened to be a video popped up in my recommendations the other day called AI LLM Text Stereotypes in Japanese. Chappi kobu. So, thought that might be interesting to check out. It's definitely a worthwhile channel. I forget what the first video I ever
A while
saw
back,
on there
somebody
is.
asked me, what are the stereotypes of AI or LLM-based language output in the Japanese context? And I actually didn't know. But fortunately for me, a Japanese slang term has popped up that answers this question, and that is chappi kobu, or chappy syntax. If you haven't watched all of my
Oh, interesting.
videos, first pause, go and do that, but for a quick review, Chappi is a usually affectionate term used to refer to ChatGPT, but also sometimes just like language learning models in general, AI in general. And kolbun is a term that literally means syntax.
Yeah, the characters kol means like to put something together, and bun is like written language.
But has been adopted by the Japanese internet for some time now to refer to ways of speaking that can be imitated. Some of these are just like meme templates, but others refer to a variety of features.
Oh, now I'm curious.
Some
what
of
was the
these
meme
are
template?
just like meme templates, but others refer to a variety of features which come together. So Chappi Kolbun then is a collection of features associated with LLM outputted Japanese. Similar to, for instance, the discussions about how M dashes, to my chagrin, as someone who loves to use
I will say I'm a big user of M dashes too, so it really kind of annoyed the shit out of me that LLMs decided to use, pick up on that of all things.
to give kind of the vibe of AI model generated text in English, to the extent that the creator of ChatGPT had to like say that they removed them, which is great. I think it's awesome that billions and billions of dollars are being put into something which doesn't even do what you tell it to do until they try multiple times.
Yeah, it is. It is wonderful that this is what our capitalist class has decided to put all the money into. Things that do not work.
And this, of course, combines with phrases like, that's not X, it's Y, or more problematically, biases towards gender stereotypes or socially dominant groups. What about the Japanese context? Let's look at some examples of key features that are listed as common to Chappi Kolbun.
Okay, I'm very curious about this.
Which, like LLM-based writing in English, is often seen as unpleasant to read and annoying.
Yes, both of those things. And there was an interesting article recently where somebody actually did models of the structure of longer form writing, looking at humans in English versus LLMs in English. And what they found is there is a specific structure, human writing tends to have sort of a pyramid structure. It goes from, broader to narrower, essentially, or narrower to broader. And LLMs, and they tested out various of them, all have sort of a turd-shaped structure. It starts out very narrow, and then it just stays more or less constant until it eventually peters out.
Although keep in mind, though, that Chappi Kolbun itself usually refers to people parodying this, which some people can like, as you can see here. And we can also see here is one of the key phrases.
チャッピー構文好きすぎる。結論から言うね。角度。
I'd say the most key phrase associated with Chappi Kolbun with LLM text in Japanese, which is stating ketsuron kara yuto, or starting with the conclusion. Indeed,
Oh, that's gonna hurt. That's gonna hurt Dolgan. He loves to say ketsuron kara yuto.
this is such a stereotyped like starting phrase for LLM output in Japanese that you can make a joke about it and get hundreds of thousands of likes. We can also see three other features of Chappi Kolbun in this interaction, though, one of which is the sorewa mecha seikai, or
Using mecha as the prefix, I guess.
that is really correct, which mirrors the complementary sycophantic sort of style that's associated with LLMs in English as well. The pointing finger emoji for some reason, which I don't think is seen in the English context, and then
I certainly have not noticed it.
kore jitsuwa, or this is something, and then they go on to it as in actually this is or whatever, is mentioned quite a bit. Here's a pretty funny example where somebody uses it.
Okay, 結論から言うね。指差し。それめっちゃ大不正解。It is extremely big inaccurate.
And changes it from seikai to daifu seikai, and then also introduces another major feature of Chappi Kolbun, which is listing bullet points, which here that I also have flaws and that I cannot love the original form. You don't find that amusing? It's clearly a reference to the song Daifu Seikai by the band Back Number from 2019.
Oh, I did not know this.
At least 55,000 people know that. Why don't you? Indeed, if you look up descriptions where people like
because I will admit it, my Japanese music tastes, I basically all of the Japanese music I know, pop music is from like the 1990s and before, and I have not actually listened to a lot of more recent bands. So I have like a sort of Gen X music tastes, sort of frozen in amber.
Into long detail on what they think Chappie Colburn looks like. This use of bullet points, specifically bullet points that don't really connect to one another.
構造を書きに構造がない。これは AI 関係なくできていない人も、多いがなんとなく突っ込みどころがないように要素を並べただけの箇条を書き。Okay, so structurally meaningless,
or add nothing, as this person you're looking at is phrasing it, being key examples of that. Indeed, in this interaction, I love it when I get a full interaction as data. You can see somebody listing off reasons why they love dog-type boyfriends, which is a whole nother thing we can talk about.
Yes, I'm curious.
But I understand that everyone here has limited attention spans. And just from that alone, the first reply accuses the person of using LLMs to produce the text. The original post...
Yeah, because of the bullet points.
...says that's not true, and then somebody responds with another kind of text, which then the original poster says looks like LLM-generated text, or Chappie Colburn. What makes that last bit Chappie Colburn-ish? Well, I'm not actually sure, but one thing might be kind of inappropriate register, or like an inappropriate form of Japanese, because this is something also that comes up a lot in discussions of what LLM Japanese looks like.
That makes sense, because again, there is a huge amount of context, a huge amount of like social and relational context that goes into, you know, what politeness level you use, and that influences pretty much everything that goes on in the sentence. And a probabilistic text generator that doesn't understand any of that, is constitutionally incapable of understanding any of that stuff, is almost certainly going to get that stuff wrong.
That is, if you're speaking politely, they'll speak plainly, or if you're speaking plainly, they'll speak politely.
And now, to be clear, for people who don't know Japanese, or are interested in learning, or are just starting out, there are situations where one person will speak plainly and another person will speak politely. They're actually very common. And it denotes a hierarchical relationship. But, like, the person speaking plainly in that situation is more likely to be like a hierarchical superior, or think of themselves, or someone who considers themselves to be a hierarchical superior. But, you wouldn't really, that is a thing that makes sense in context, or it doesn't make sense in context.
Or speak in a plain style, which is just not the same kind of plain style, either too casual, too comfortable, a bit too nare-nare-shi, like something that you would say to someone you're close to, but you don't want a robot to say to you, even a casual robot. As a potential, like I can't prove this, but I think a potential example of this in action, look at this interaction. That's right, we get two full interactions in this.
Okay, let's have a look at this. 私は喋ったことない人にタメ口使われるのも呼び捨てされるのも嫌です。I don't like to be spoken to in tameguchi. This is actually, I did not realize that this was going to tie in so well to the guy with the red pill method of learning Japanese from yesterday, and from kinda today as well. But it really does, because this first comment is, I don't like it when somebody I have never talked to speaks to me in tameguchi, in casual Japanese, or addresses me without any kind of honorific on my name. Yobiste, it's called. 結論から言わせて、指差し、それ、健全な反応、emoji. Speaking, to put it briefly, speaking in Chappie Colburn, that is a healthy reaction. Wa, idaisuki. And welcome back. あった。Chappie Colburn してみたんだけど、伝わってる So I was he says I was just trying to sound like an LLM. Did that get across? And she says, 余裕で伝わってる。そう。You absolutely got that across. Laugh. よかった. Laugh. And then another way of saying, that's, I mean, that hits so many notes. Because what she's saying here is precisely the thing you need to understand about speaking casually. That this guy that we were looking at earlier and yesterday really did not get into, but it is very important, namely that it will rub a lot of people the wrong way if you just sort of walk up and start speaking casually without any kind of context.
This video where somebody posts a sentence in the des mas form, and then the first reply is in casual form, using the finger emoji we discussed earlier and clearly trying to be an example of Chapi Kolbun. And this does get a response from the original poster that, hey, you're writing like an LLM, aren't you? And everyone has a little bit of a laugh.
Yeah, because the person was actually trying to sound like an LLM in that case.
In a kind of opposite example, we can see this post here, which went viral with almost...
I love it when my choices of video are accidentally thematically consistent. Like, there is a through line that I can take no credit for here between the red pill Japanese guy, Evil Dia's thing on sounding natural and why you should just do everything with LLMs, and this. And it works really well, and I did not plan this at all. It is a through line I can take zero credit for, but it totally works.
3,000 likes, where somebody talks about how their boyfriend appears to be unable to state their own opinions, but instead uses ChatGPT to like get their opinions.
Okay, so that's everywhere apparently. 最近付き合った彼氏。絶対 LINE の文章をチャットで GPT に考えてもらってる気がします。Okay, this guy I've been seeing recently, I totally think he is, when he's writing messages online, which is the main Japanese chat messaging app, that he's having ChatGPT think for him when he's sending messages there. 普段だわ。そういう気をつけるとか社会人としてアウトな言葉遣いばかりなのに Okay, a bunch of things that like adult humans in Japanese would not say or misspellings that they wouldn't use. 自分を押し通したい時だけやけに流暢ででも中身の浅い長文を送ってきます。So, okay. He is strangely fluent when he's trying to get his, trying to prevail with his opinion. And, yeah. なって感じてるです。Oh, interesting. So, so he thinks that he's getting his opinions. She thinks that he's getting his opinions from ChatGPT.
Told to them, and the reason that they can tell this is that the person is normally, in their words, someone who only uses phrases that are out, like not appropriate for a shakaijin. Or
oh wait, I got that backwards. Okay, so normally he has really horrible spelling. And now he doesn't, and then when he has an opinion, suddenly he has very correct spelling. Okay, I got I was scanning and I got that backwards.
Like a person that has like a real job, a productive member of society, but when they have to assert something, all of a sudden they switch to quote-unquote fluent Japanese. So again, the register doesn't match the kind of interaction, or indeed the identity of the person that's using the device. This is of course emphasized by that aforementioned sycophantic element. Chappi, etc. are associated with telling you what you want.
It's funny, chappi in Europe is dog food.
To hear, especially for phrases like you can see in this post, such as, your odd feeling is 100% correct, or your viewpoint really gets to the heart of the problem. And then...
Okay, this is something I wanted to mention as well. This is like just a random thing that is interesting. In Japanese, there's this word iwakan, which is, it means a lot. It literally means like a feeling of vague discomfort. But it is also the official translation of the word dysphoria, which I find fascinating, because the thing is that if you use the word, if you translate this the way that you immediately would get, you're probably one of the most common ways. Yes, Chappy is ChatGPT, or just LLMs generally. So this word that just means vague discomfort also means dysphoria, but they use it all over the place. And so somebody who is translating from Japanese and will actually hear the term probably translated as dysphoria and think that somebody is just using that all over the place, when dysphoria is a term that basically you only ever hear in the context of like gender dysphoria and stuff like that, whereas in Japanese this word that means dysphoria, amongst other things, is just used to mean just a general sense of unease.
Such as, your odd feeling is 100% correct, or your viewpoint really gets to the heart of the problem. And then for some reason, LLM discourse in Japan is also very much associated with like the use of 2 asterisks. And we can see all of this together in a really fantastic example of Chappi Kolbun in the viral tweet that you're looking at, over 100,000 likes. So,
oh, let me see here. Oh god, it's got all of it. Yeah, the asterisks, that used to be how, like a long time ago, before you could do italics and boldface and stuff like that in emails and things, that would be how we would denote that something should be like boldface or italicized or something like that. So I think that must be where it's getting from. このプレゼントめっちゃ嬉しいです。まずはこれだけ言わせて、そのノリかなり俺にモテる。そうでもおすすめは来年から渡すです。Oh god, yeah.
Again, Japanese people found this very funny. But here a boyfriend is thanking their girlfriend for buying them a present by sending a thank you message as though it was written by ChatGPT. And in it, you got the dots, you got the finger arrows, you got the bullet points. You got 2 things that I actually haven't had a chance to mention, which are generic paragraph starters, such as mazu or tsumari. So
Yeah.
First off and in summation. And also you can even see a weird balance between polite and plain form in the same interactions, as some sentences end with des and some sentences end with nothing, which of course it can happen in Japanese, but generally you don't jump between these within like a single message.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. That's what I was about to say. Like these things indicate a certain relational context. And so you would not really expect somebody to be jumping between them, and you wouldn't necessarily hear, like, めっちゃ嬉しいです in this sort of context, because that is strangely at once extremely casual and informal, and also, like, unusually polite for the context.
Especially not a message to your romantic partner, wherein something like the plain form could in theory sound a bit distant. And here's another 100,000 plus people like example where somebody encounters a daichu. If you're not familiar with chu, I've talked about it in this video, but a daichu is basically somebody who goes to places where people are not looking for relationships and tries to find relationships. And this daichu is trying to present themselves as somebody who likes music and is chatting with this girl about music.
It's funny how sometimes one language will come up with a name for something that exists all over the place. Because we have, that isn't a specifically Japanese thing. You find that in all sorts of online communities. You'll find somebody who will join a community that is about, I don't know, languages or something, and literally all they seem to care about is getting laid. That's the entire reason they're there. It is the entire motivation, and it drives all of their interactions. But we don't really, to my knowledge, have a word for that in English. In Japanese, they have daichu.
Saying that they're going to ask them something weird, which is going to be, we all know what it's going to be, to which the person replies with a very amusing example of Chappi
これ実はめっちゃキモい。
Kolbun, where they tell the
理由をざっくり言うと
person off as if an LLM is telling them off. And again, we can see asterisks, we can see fingers, we can see bullet points, we can see kore jitsu wa. Of course, in this case, it's this thing is actually very
And
gross.
we've got mecha.
It starts with the conclusion, and then it ends with a funny revert to human speech as they say, never contact me again. And indeed, people do like using Chappy Kolbun just to kind of have fun online, oddly turning fake human language into the inspiration for real human language, as in this person here who uses it to complement their Oshi, who is a racing Oshi, which we've never had on this channel. That's nice, as is the conclusion that they start from, that this person is very cool. And showing this kind of continued weird productivity loop where humans create data that AI uses to create data that humans don't like, so they make things that humans do like by parroting it.
Yeah, which is fascinating and something no LLM will ever be able to do.
There have been
There's
songs
so many
that-
levels of meta consciousness that go in to making that possible, where, like, literally, we hate it. We hate the real thing, but the imitation is funny. That, I mean, the level there is, like, there could be like volumes of philosophy written on the fact that that actually somehow works. That we detest the original thing. It is, we absolutely don't want to spend any time on it. And then, but the imitation somehow is, like, hilarious and we love it and we can't get enough of it or something like that. That is fascinating, actually.
about it. And even some line stickers, which seem to have been removed from the store, but you can see we start with, from the conclusion, that's amazingly correct. And we also see compliments like, you're so smart for thinking that, your feelings aren't wrong. Can I speak honestly? I don't think that's a flaw, I think that's a weapon. You're so great for being able to put that feeling into words. And it's honestly incredible that you're able to think this deeply about it, among others. So all in all, yes, Chappy Kolbun does show that Japanese people are just as frustrated with bland AI-generated text as many of us are, and they also have their own stereotypes about it, as well as stereotypes about, you know, AI-generated art or other things, etc. As you
Yeah, I
see
mean,
this person here critiquing a
I just love that this actually all somehow came together in one weekend of streaming. Just thematically, it works so fucking well because because this also touches on why it's actually not great to be using casual language with people that you have that you don't know. Yeah. Wait. Short Kings? Oh, because he's talking about his height. So he starts talking about, I'm guessing Napoleon came up. And the funny thing about Napoleon is we have this idea that he was short and that he had a Napoleonic complex because he was short, but actually he was average height for his time. So fuck knows how we came up with that.
menu design. The term in that quote you can see there, AI kusai, or smells of AI, is also used quite a bit to refer to anything that is AI-ish, but in the written form, Chappy syntax is the term that is used to refer to, again, actually the human act of people parroting the AI parodies of human acts. So speaking directly from the conclusion...
Well, okay, and see, there you go. There's another example, because the AI parody... See, a parody is a conscious thing, where somebody is deliberately coming up with the essential characteristics of the thing and imitating it in a mocking way. Which is, all of this is very conscious and very meta, and very outside of even the remotest range of the capabilities of LLMs.
Avoid using these kind of phrases if you want to be thought of as a human, someone who comes up with their own language acts, and someone who has put time and thought into their writing output, and therefore deserves to request time and thought from the person reading your writing output.
Yeah.
A while back, somebody asked me, what...
Okay.
Let's watch another clip. Now.
A while back, somebody asked me, what are the stereotypes of...
Okay, hang on. sometimes it is kind of random what things I get on YouTube when I hit back. It isn't necessarily the thing I was actually just watching. So, okay. I think we might actually look at a little bit more of Kevin. What I love about this is he keeps on, they keep on over there at English for
Now,
I
if
still
you
don't know who. By adding even more shit on their thumbnails, and now they're just calling people fake teachers, which is like remarkably libelous, actually. I mean, what makes somebody a fake teacher? Are you saying that they falsely claim to have a teaching credential? Like, I mean, I would be a little bit careful with that.
To sound like native. Watch this video one more time and repeat everything without stopping the video.
If you want to sound like native, we cannot say this. So how do we say it correct?
See, yeah. But again, it's like, why? Why are we doing this, Kevin?
Exactly. Like a native speaker. If you want to sound like a native speaker, then watch this video again and repeat everything. Well, not everything. Don't repeat the mistakes. If you want to speak like a native speaker, is it a good idea to watch this video again?
I don't see why it's not inherently a bad idea. I mean, like, who cares? It's not a good idea to watch this video because you'll just end up sounding like an annoying motherfucker. Like, okay, now he's doing meta.
That's right. If you want to sound like a native speaker,
A
it's a good
Tomodachi
idea to
Life
watch this video again
character.
and practice more, but don't repeat the mistakes. Let's watch another clip.
Number one, how you look like, it creates first impression.
How you look like, it creates first impression.
I mean, I suppose it does. Like, for example, how he looks like, it creates first impression that he is possibly off to get Neo back into the Matrix.
There are a few problems here. First, we do not say how you look like. If I use how, I can
Like,
use...
I still, is anyone actually getting? Let me just look at the, let me look at the comments on here. People who are learning English definitely need someone like you. Let me know, guys. It's insane how much unprofessional people can be and confident at the same time. Thank you, Kevin, for highlighting this. Sorry for my mistakes. Like, apologizing for their grammatical mistakes as a non-native speaker. Like, why are you apologizing? I love to learn correct English. Thanks, teacher. Okay, so Kevin is immaculate. Great help for us all. Uninterruptible learners. What is what the hell is an uninterruptible learner? You are doing a great job. I am a learner in need. Avoid the fakes teachers. I think some of these people are just taking the piss. You are the right teacher in the world, right? This space is really underrated. Wish it had way more exposure. It is way over. It has 457,000 subscribers. I still don't understand it because I can't make it through an entire video. Because it's like, it manages to be this special sweet spot of boring and annoying.
Like. So, no like. Okay. How you look, it creates first impression. We need an article for first impression.
I mean, again, once, yeah, like, it's, none of what he's saying here is wrong, but this is somebody speaking casually off the cuff, and, like, what is the benefit here?
How you look creates a first impression. We don't need it. Again.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, people actually will often say it. They will have a pause, say, how you look, it creates a first impression. That is a thing people will actually do. So no, you don't need it. But it's not entire. Like, why are we spending all this time on this? Like,
How you look creates a first impression. This is correct. Let's practice. Does how you look create a first impression?
yes.
That's right. How you look creates a first impression. So remember, we cannot say how you look like.
I mean, you just did.
We cannot use like if we use how. We cannot mix these two words in one sentence. We cannot use the way. We cannot say, I like the way how you look.
We can. You can certainly say, I like the way you look. You can use the way.
So we cannot mix how, like, and the way. So keep watching until the end of this video for a complete explanation and to practice more with these confusing words. Let's watch another clip.
People understand who we are by looking at us. But the thing is, that's the first impression.
The first impression that I have was that he was handsome.
Okay, that's the first impression. Good. We're using the now, an article.
Oh, wow. Like, why the fuck? First of all, I think that was a native speaker, so we don't really need your praise. But what the fuck are you, like, what are we doing now? Has he started, like, just randomly praising the grammar of native speakers on YouTube? Wow, you used an article correctly. Mecha tadashi.
That's the first impression. But the example? Let's hear that example again.
But the thing is, that's the first impression.
The first impression that I have was that he was handsome.
The first impression that I have
Fuck off.
was that he was handsome.
Yes, and I can actually see where the present tense comes in here. The first impression that I have, because you're remembering that this is clearly a recollection we're hearing about. And so she's been asked about her first impression of him, apparently. And so she's thinking back, what's the first impression I have of him? Like in my memory.
I cannot use have here. The first impression that I have was that he was handsome. He was handsome is in the past. So
Yes, but your memory of that is in the present.
we have to change have to the past, had. The first impression that I had was that he was handsome. This is correct. Example. The first impression that she had was that he was handsome. Let's practice. What was the first impression that she had?
That he was, I think, AI slaw. Meant to look like anime.
That's right. The first impression that she had was that he was handsome. And I know this clip.
Why are we doing this in his? This is not. This is like what's with this background? I mean, yeah, okay, natural light is nice. The change of setting is nice, but why are we just standing on the sidewalk correcting people's fucking grammar? Like, does he have a script that he's I'm looking at his glasses. I don't see one. So is he just standing here this whole time? John Wayne Bobbitt? Wait, so he's correcting the grammar of... What the... What? What?
Know that picture? That's John Wayne Bobbitt. And And the girl who was talking that made the mistake, that's his ex-wife.
Yes, who he, like, viciously abused, so maybe cut her some fucking slack on her grammar. Like, there are reasons that he ended up being famous for the thing he is famous for. So, like, this is actually manages to be more fucked up than usual.
It was a famous story back in the 90s. If you want to Google it, Google John Wayne Bobbitt and find out what happened to him. And you'll find out...
But also find out what he did to Lorena that inspired her to make that happen to him. Because that was fucked up. Like, why have we decided that this is a thing we're going to be talking... Like, this isn't English learning content here that he's looking at. That he's not correcting her while she's telling people how to do English grammar. She's talking about her recollections of this asshole.
Ex-wife was not a native English speaker.
Wow, like that's clearly what we need to remember about the whole thing, that she wasn't a native English speaker.
But I sound completely different. You got it. You got it down.
You got it? You got it down?
I thought he said you got it down, actually. Well, let me go back.
Let's watch another clip.
But I sound completely different. You got it. You got it down.
You got it? You got it down?
I mean, it still sounds to me like he said you got it down. But, I mean, yeah, you got it, comma, down, like, as in, you got it, damn, you know, you got it. Like, yeah, just a random exclamation.
He did not say that. He doesn't understand what his friend is saying. Because he translated it incorrectly.
Well, or more likely, he used some sort of a text, a speech-to-text algorithm, and it misunderstood it, and he didn't bother to check it, which a lot of people don't bother to do.
Different. You got it. You got it down.
He said, you got it down. Not down, down. And this is an expression. If you have something down, if you got it down, it means you know it.
Now he's correcting the English of speech-to-text algorithms.
Completely, you got it down. Not down. That's not what he said. So example, he's making a speech, and he knows it perfectly. He's got it down. He's got it down.
Has he got it down? Yes.
He knows it 100%. So he's making a speech. Does he know everything he wants to say? That's right, he knows everything he wants to say. He's got it down. Let's watch another clip.
But if you cannot find native speaker, what you can do, you can join foxu.com. That's a...
Wait. That's not a great name for a thing. That does not sound like what he wants it to sound like.
Platform that I have built.
But if you cannot find native speaker, we need an article, because this one, speaker.
And this is just a reminder that not all native speakers are people that you necessarily want fucking around with your English, because I think if you invite him in, he will just sit there correcting everything. He'll be a correction vampire.
Native speaker. And if you cannot find a native speaker, so the idea,
like,
you want to practice...
What is he trying to tell us by having fucking John Wayne Bobbitt up there?
It's your English, but you cannot find a native speaker. And if you cannot find a native speaker, you can watch videos on YouTube. Let's practice. What do you do if you cannot find a native speaker?
Look for one.
That's right. If you cannot find a native speaker, you can practice your English on YouTube.
Why? I still don't understand. Why is he doing this on the sidewalk? It's not even it's not like he's found a really nice view. Like, this guy that he is nitpicking about is walking through the beautiful, like, touristy area of Miraflores in Lima, which has some spectacular views. He's not actually really showing them for the most part. Like, there's the Malecón de Miraflores. You've got, like, the amazing ocean view and stuff like that. and this gorgeous park with all this like really cool sculpture and stuff, and you could do it there. He's not really showing us that, but I mean there is stuff you could do with that. This is just like somebody's driveway that we're looking at. Like why do I care? Like why is he doing this way?
Let's watch another clip.
Pretend you're somebody else doing it.
Ooh, that's a badass advice. I'll say.
That's a badass advice?
Yeah. Okay. That is an interesting sentence, I will say, but I can't wait to hear Kevin explain how to use the usage of badass.
We cannot say this. Advice is not countable. We cannot say good advice, bad advice. We cannot use with the word advice.
Advice does not have an ass. It does not have a good ass. It does not have a bad ass. It does not even have a mediocre ass. We cannot say that is badass advice.
Advice. It's just advice. It's good advice. It's bad advice. No article with the word advice.
And it has no
So
ass.
he gave some advice. Not an advice, but some advice. Was it good advice or bad advice?
What was its ass like?
That's right. It was good advice. Remember, we cannot say good advice. Advice is not a countable word. But what if you want to count it?
Well, you count it by the number of asses it has, clearly.
If you want to say just one, then we say a piece of advice. If you want to count it, you can. Say a piece of
And we
advice.
have his permission to count advice.
But normally we just say some advice. Give me some advice. Let's watch another clip.
Or in Brazil, India, or Indonesia, Philippines, Colombia.
Indonesia? Indonesia?
Wait, now he's just going after people's fucking pronunciation. Like, this is already sort of an unhealthy obsession of his. Like, correcting the grammar of non-native speakers who are speaking off the cuff, but then to start going after their pronunciation.
Did he say Indonesia? Let's watch that again.
India, or Indonesia, Philippines, Colombia.
Actually, no, it didn't sound like you said Indonesia. I can see it kind of borders on that, but I was hearing very much of an E. It was sort of a borderline vowel, and who cares?
Yeah, he said Indonesia. The country is not pronounced like that. It's pronounced Indonesia. We do not use the long A like day and say. We use the long...
He didn't use a long A like day and say, though.
Long E like green beans. Indonesia. Niche. That's the stressed syllable. Indonesia. And Indonesia is a country in Asia. It's made up of over 17,000 islands. Wow, that's a lot of islands. Let's practice.
Let's.
What is Indonesia? Is it a country in Asia?
Yeah, I mean, it sounded... I mean, it was kind of borderline, but it sounded like that he was sort of on E, and maybe he was stifling a cough or something at the time. Because sometimes you will have like a hiccup or something like that come up, and it will actually sort of distort your vowels for a second. In any case, like, who gives a shit?
That's right, it's a country in Asia. And is it made up of more than 17,000 islands? That's right, it's made up of over 17,000 islands. Let's watch another clip.
I was attending a church, and what did help me to improve the way I sound was singing in a church with everyone else.
Singing?
Okay, is he just now he's branched out into fucking he just pronunciation things.
Singing
this
in
is
a
so
church with everyone
like
else?
why is this? I do not understand the appeal. Do people actually watch this all the way through? The only reason I'm doing it is to take the piss out of it and to marvel at how like somebody ever thought to make this in the first place.
We don't pronounce the word singing. There's no g in the middle. It's pronounced singing.
Okay, why is the kid on the like the kids that are flanking this couple who are singing? I mean, interesting haircut on the one, and then they both seem like to be showing a certain amount of discomfort.
There's no hard g sound. It's in your nose. Singing. Singing in church. You can say in a church, but normally we don't. We say in church.
Well, it depends if you're talking about the act of being in church or being in a specific, like, you were, as opposed to singing in another place. It isn't a matter of, like, that isn't a matter of one is correct and one is incorrect. It is use cases. Like, we were singing in a church. Other times we were singing in a garage. Other times we were singing in a pub. Whatever. As opposed to, if you say singing in church, you're basically saying church, church is a place that you go and singing is a thing you do there.
It's like in church. No article is necessary. Singing in church with everyone else. That's what helped him. That's what helped him with his English. Singing in church with everyone else. Let's practice. What helped him with his English? That's right. Singing in church helped him with his English. So remember these three things. How?
How the hell does he have hundreds of thousands of subscribers?
Like and the way. We don't mix them. Keep watching to practice more with this. First, this is not correct.
And while you're guessing, let's remember something we learned a few weeks ago. How would you call this heel? It's called a kitten heel.
Well, okay. He's just recycling content. I feel like we watched this on stream at some point, months and months ago. Wow, that is wild. I'm sure that we actually have seen this specific clip.
It's my favorite, kitten heel. Look at that. My new favorite shoes.
First, I cannot say, how do you call? When you're talking about the name of something, we cannot use the question word how with the verb call. I have to use the question word what. What do you call? Example, what do you call this? This is called a mouse. This is called a computer mouse. I cannot say, how do you call this? I have to say what.
Yeah, he is reusing... He is just recycling videos. So he puts on a few minutes of him standing out on his driveway correcting people, and then he strings it on to somebody on some shit that he already put up on YouTube months ago. That's the grift.
I have to use what. What do you call this? And the answer, we say it's called. It is contraction. It's called a mouse. Let's practice. What do you call this?
I call it recycling content. I call it actually kind of lazy.
It's called a mouse. It's called a computer mouse. Let's watch the clip again.
And while you're guessing, let's remember something we learned a few weeks ago. How would you call this heel? It's called a kitten heel. It's my favorite, kitten heel. Look at that.
I actually own a pair of shoes like that, and I had no idea they were called that.
My new favorite shoes.
Kitten heels. Kitten heels? Oh, she means kitten. We cannot say.
Oh God! I mean, the best part is this whole. Oh, she means kitten. You fucking knew what she meant. Shut the fuck up. Which is probably what I said the first time I reacted to this months and months ago, because he's reusing his old stuff. This is recycling.
You cannot pronounce the word kitten. It's pronounced kitten. When I have T-E-N at the end of a word, the T is special. I cannot pronounce it like a fast D, like when I say water bottle.
I've actually heard people say kitten.
I cannot say kitten. I make the stop T and go directly to the end sound. Kit. I stop the air with my tongue. Kit. And go directly to the end sound. Another option, I can make the real T and say kit. kitten. This is also correct. But it's more common in American pronunciation to hear kitten, but never say kitten.
People will understand you just fine if you do it, and people do this in casual speech if they're in a hurry. It's not entirely common, but it happens, and you really, there's no reason that you should, the only reason to be avoiding it this much is because you don't want this motherfucker to make a video about you.
It's kitten or kitten. Kitten is more common. Example, kittens are cute. All kittens are cute. So these kittens are cute. Let's practice.
Yeah, these kittens look like AI slop, actually. Somehow that they're not.
Are these kittens cute? That's right, these kittens are cute. And this is a kitten heel. I had no idea, because I don't wear heels. But yeah, this is called a kitten heel. Not a kitten heel, but a kitten heel. So remember, when you use the verb call to talk about the name of something.
Okay, yeah, this is, we actually looked at this. That is wild that now he's just recycling his old videos like this. Let's see. What else can we look at? We've only got a few minutes left. And so... Okay, 100-hour Lingo Pi review. We'll look a little bit about this. This is Evil Diaz's series he's doing on Lingo Pi. Kind of curious what he has to say about it, especially because in his video reacting to me and accusing me of strawmanning him, he literally did not understand why Lingo Pi would be generally thought of as a tool for input-based methods, and why anyone would ever get the idea that he did not speak highly of them.
What's up, grinders? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're ready for the 100-hour Lingo Pi review. Now, for those who randomly landed on this video from the void and have absolutely no idea who I am or what this is, don't worry, you don't need to know who I am, but this is the Lingo Pi series. Yes, that's me breathing, because I managed to do all of that in one breath. Okay, so we're up to the 4th video in this series, where every 50 hours I post my progress using Lingo Pi in Mandarin Chinese. So basically, I am taking my Mandarin Chinese, which was at the beginning of this series 1 month ago, up to an advanced level from an intermediate level. So this is the 2nd official video in which I provide my update. Now guys, if you decide to sign up to Lingo Pi, please don't forget that there's an actual affiliate link you can click on. That's right. The last month or so, I have been cracking it. Every single goddamn day I have been on here, I've been watching content.
Okay, I'm kind of curious what his impressions were. We only have a few minutes, so I'm going to just kind of skip ahead.
Okay, now let's have a look what else has happened. Now, I know some of you sharp-eyed eagles out there, you're looking down there and you're going, Evil Deer, what's going on? Why is there 99 flashcards ready for you to study? You are the worst grinder ever. That is also not fair. Okay, let me explain that, okay? Because that was not there, like, an hour before making this video.
Weird.
See, I remember in the last video, I pretty much...
Like, okay, that is actually... Why would they come out of nowhere?
Showed you guys the interface, and I pointed out that, you know, I had 99 flashcards just waiting there, just sitting there, and I was like, don't worry, grinders, I'll get to that, I'll get to that. I actually got to that. I finished all my flashcards for the day before making this video, and I don't know what happened, but I checked. I think at the time I'm making this video, it pretty much, like, hit midnight in America or something, and then it reset, and it's like, you gotta do your daily flashcards, and I was like, come on. And if that sounds like I'm doing a lot of flashcards every day, yeah, I am. I'm doing a lot of flashcards. Okay.
Okay, but like, how are you finding the results?
So for shows that are needed to be done entirely, we reran them all through this new system. So I will be paying attention to this, and I'll be letting you guys know over the next 50 hours how well this new system. Spanish series because, well, this is going to be me learning to read, I guess. Now, I think I'll probably be able to power my way through most of the early on books here, but I do plan to start reading here as well, just for Spanish. That's it, okay? It looks like there's a fair few pretty interesting short stories in here, like quite a few. Anyway, let's go back to Chinese because that's what this series is about. What have I done over the last 50 hours? Well, yes, you saw the on-platform stuff, but let me go show you my beautiful spreadsheet. So this is the...
Okay, so LingoPie, comprehensible input, flashcards, 1.9%, 58%. Okay, so then life and gaming, and then tutoring.
Pie chart, because it's a LingoPie series, as all of you pointed out.
Cute.
My pie chart, okay. Now, before we get into that, I do want to show you, this is me hardcore, like, tracking my numbers behind the scenes.
Holy shit, like, that is a labor of love for Excel tables.
I dropped my last video at this point right here, and this is everything that I've done since. And now,
I wanted to hear what him say what progress he was making, but it seems like he's not like making that very difficult to find. I think we might just knock off just a little bit earlier today. Thank you to everyone who joined in the stream. I hope you enjoyed the stream, and I will be back at 4:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time next week on Friday.